and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police, but I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this gun violence in the streets. I'm Janquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
Police say the search is over for a murder suspect this morning. Officers say 62-year-old Jarrell Bethel turned himself in Wednesday in connection to a deadly gas station shooting.
So this is the gas station shooting at the Valero in DeKalb County that we covered last week. Pretty much it was an argument with a guy at the gas station, and you know, things turned deadly. You're a 62-year-old super gremlin on demon time, and you still can't control your emotions. So you shoot somebody. I mean, it's ridiculous. These are the OGs. People wonder why the community is so messed up. Yo, these are the OGs, bruh. These are the OGs. Like, what are we supposed to do?
He's accused of killing Tyron Hodge Tuesday during an argument at the Valero gas station there in Decatur. Bethel was charged with malice murder.
In DeKalb now for another developing story. Police are investigating a deadly shooting near the Shell station on Covington Highway last night.
I'm telling you, these gas stations are on demon time. Like, when you pull up to the gas station, you know what you finna see. You finna see either super gremlins out there selling water. I'm telling you, by day, they may be selling water. By night, they're on demon time. Like, it's really, it's a mixed bag. You really don't know what you're going to get when you pull up to these gas stations. I'm telling you that for a fact. You don't know what you're going to get. And it's wild, man. It's wild. So, like, I mean, just listen.
Officers say one person was killed. We're told 2 others were also hurt in a crash in that same area. We'll update you as soon as we get some more information.
So what they're not telling you is that it was actually a 14-year-old boy who did the shooting at this gas station. 14. I thought they were going to mention it, but I react to these. I never watched these videos before. I go over them, so that's why sometimes it may be a little off. I'll have to go back and say some things and correct that in, you know, later parts of the video. So you got to watch the full video, okay, to get the full context. But they didn't even mention the boy was 14.
In DeKalb now for another developing story. Police are investigating a deadly shooting near the Shell station on Covington Highway last night. Officers say one person was killed. We're told 2 others were also hurt in a crash in that same area. We'll update you as soon as we get some more information.
Have a mystery at this hour. A man was found dead in the backseat of a car parked near an Atlanta fire station. CBS 46's Tori Cooper is at police headquarters in downtown with the latest on the investigation.
Homicide detectives tell us that firefighters even tried to save the young boy in the back of the car, but it was too late. A difficult discovery in front of this Southwest Atlanta fire station on Fairburn Road.
Call at the fire station here behind us in reference to an individual that had sustained multiple gun.
This man be working. Ralph Woolfolk, he be working.
Shot wound.
Atlanta police say shortly after 5 a.m., firefighters along Fairburn Road discovered a 19-year-old boy shot in the backseat of this white sedan that was parked outside of their fire station.
Wow. So they shot They shot the boy and dropped him off at a fire station. And maybe the same guys who what it usually is, they're in the car, it's a few friends in the car, and somebody spins the block and shoots them, or maybe somebody in the car shoots him and gets out. Who knows? Could have been like a botched drug deal or something like that. You never know. And then the friends are panicking. So they're like, oh, where's the nearest hospital? Up, fire station. Pull up to the fire station. Maybe they can save their life. Then they ditch the car. So that's what usually happens. I think that's messed up. I think, hey, man, whatever comes with it, you need to see it through 100%, that it's low character to leave your friend in the car. If that's what happened, okay, I'm just, theorizing here, but that's what it sounds like to me. It's just ridiculous what these super gremlins are on in Atlanta.
The officers and firefighters did work to try to life-saving measures here on scene.
Detectives say the team was pronounced dead in the front parking lot of the fire station Friday. Before police say they got the call from the fire station, officers were already dispatched to the Ashley Cascade Apartments on Kimberly Way.
There was a shooting of some sort that occurred at the location.
Detectives say they eventually determined the apartment and the fire station scenes were both connected to the deadly outcome. But they still don't have a suspect in custody.
But there were a few people inside of that vehicle in which first left from 1371 Kimberly Way.
Now, dozens of family members showed up to the scene. They were obviously devastated, but as of right now, police still have not released the name of the victim, and they have not arrested a suspect. Reporting here in downtown Atlanta, I'm Tori Cooper, CBS 46 News.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Medgar Evers, and it's a very tranquil scene compared to just a couple hours ago where a drive-by shooting
just took place. Excuse me, I'm getting live updates as we speak. I've just been updated to the amount of casualties from this drive-by shooting, and I'm getting reports that 2 people were actually declared deceased and 27 others were shot and injured but are in stable condition. And although we must pray for the families of the fallen, we must also praise God for the aim of the super gremlin. If you want to know more about the victims of this crime, make sure you add BGZM News 17 on Patreon at www.patreon.com/blackgenzmindset. Also, don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment on the video to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this gun violence in the streets. For more hard-hitting news coverage from the community, by the community, I'm Janquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
And cut.
All right, dog. Let's get the out of here before these niggas come back.
Whoa. Yo. Ain't that nigga J?
Nah, that ain't me. That ain't me.
He just went live.
That ain't me.
Funky ass that's that nigga.
That's not me.
Hey, get that nigga.
Janquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia. Pray for me.
Developing now, police are investigating after a dead teenager was found in a car at a Southwest Atlanta fire station. We first told you about this on Channel 2 Action News this morning, and Channel 2's Kristen Holloway has followed the investigation from the fire station to APD headquarters. Kristen, what have you learned?
Well, Fred, Atlanta police told us the 19-year-old was actually still alive when they arrived at that fire station, and firefighters tried to save his life. Unfortunately, his injuries were too severe.
If they would have just drove him to the hospital, maybe something could have happened. Probably not, because, this isn't what I call it, but the super gremlins, they call it Swiss cheesing somebody. So when you get Swiss cheese, it's OV. I'm just telling you how they describe it. This is not me. Listen to your local rapper and you'll hear the term Swiss cheese. That's what they are doing to these young brothers out here, okay? And maybe he was involved in some nefarious activities. Maybe he wasn't. But by the people who drove him to the fire station, obviously they thought that that was going to save his life. So I have to assume that they were his friends and cared about him and not his enemies, or what they like to call ops. But if you're really his friend, you're going to stay there on the scene and get some shit done to save his life, to try and save his life. Excuse me, but, you know, trying to keep it clean, but
Atlanta police spent hours investigating two separate crime scenes in Southwest Atlanta Friday morning after a 19-year-old was shot and killed. Lieutenant Ralph Woolfolk says the teen was shot here at this apartment complex on Kimberly Way.
While officers were en route to that call, we did receive a subsequent call at the fire station here behind us in reference to an individual that had sustained multiple gunshot wounds. We did determine that those two calls were connected.
Investigators say a group of people drove this white car to the fire station, and first responders worked to save the teen's life while he was in the back seat.
The officers and firefighters did work to try to do life-saving measures here on scene, but unfortunately, the 19-year-old male did succumb to those injuries.
And think about this. In the community, if you get killed in a car with your friends and y'all are all on demon time activities, when you get shot and you're bleeding out and you're Swiss cheesed, when you're in that state, the so-called people who are supposed to be your friends, they drive your body to a fire station, which is just dumb. I mean, it's low IQ. Like, what are they gonna do? You know, hose you down? Like, and then they ditch the car. They don't even tell the police or tell the firemen or leave a note at least. Yo, so-and-so did this. You know what I mean? So if these are who you call your homies, you know, your kin or your slime, as they like to say, you just got slimed out.
Police say they're talking to witnesses and still working to figure out what led up to the shooting.
We have recovered some ballistic evidence on both scenes. We do have some electronic evidence that's in our possession, and we are speaking to some persons that have been able to provide us some context to what might have transpired back at the apartments.
Yeah, and police said they're working to get more information on a suspect while talking to those witnesses. Of course, we'll have the very latest on this investigation starting today at 4. We're live at Atlanta Police Headquarters. Kristen Holloway, Channel 2 Action News.
Kristen, thank you very much. Looking for more information, but just 19 years old. Thank you.
A woman is left heartbroken just months into her marriage after someone shoots and kills her husband.
The 35-year-old was murdered last month outside a luxury apartment in Midtown, and police are still looking for his killer. Fox 5's Brian Hill has the story.
Shorty on the left always be slaying, but guys, this is an update as well, because we did this story on the brother who was shot in Midtown, and we're gonna hear from his wife, you know, his newlywed wife, now widow. I mean, the community is vicious, bruh.
Felicia Key tells me this has been the longest, most difficult month of her life. She says the couple was actually planning their 6-month anniversary when Desmond Key was robbed and murdered.
We had big plans.
As Felicia Key gazes over her wedding pictures, she's left to wonder what married life to Desmond Key could have been.
Wow, man. It's like that, y'all. It's like that. Okay. Beautiful family. You know, he was going to do a lot to build with this woman. And it's just crazy how a night out on the town you get robbed, and it's not enough to give it up nowadays. These super gremlins want your life. They just want to catch a body to say they caught bodies. And then when they go home, like I said, they're smoking a blunt dedicated to your slaying. There's no empathy. There's no remorse. That's why I just can't get behind people. Oh, I forgive you. 30 minutes after, the body turns cold. Like, nah, bruh. That mentality is why we're in the situation we're at now, because that mentality is making people think that it's okay to say, oh, well, give them another chance. Bail reform. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody should have an affordable bond. No. It's not true.
We were definitely looking to extend our family. We literally had just talked about it. He had just talked about taking our property management and investment company to the next level.
On April 4th, Atlanta police say the 35-year-old was shot and killed outside this apartment building here on Juniper Street by 8th Street. Investigators say a car pulled up near Key. People jumped out and pulled out guns. Then we're told they robbed and shot him.
I was completely numb, shocked. Never would have thought that he would leave so soon and in that capacity.
And this is what you're living in Atlanta. You see how these super gremlins are moving. You're not watching my channel and you can't see the signs because you don't want to, like they say in my comment section, you talking about your own people. Like, bruh, if I see this dude and it looks like they hopped out the car. So, I mean, you never know. You got to be aware of your surroundings. It's like that. Like, you got to move militant. You got to be in the mindset of a super gremlin so that you can at least have a fighting chance. And you always got to stay strapped. Always, bruh. Always, bruh.
Police tell Fox 5 they believe.
Dude, as a matter of fact, I was in because y'all know I'm in the A. I was in an Atlanta high rise. And I was on the elevator, and Buddy gets on the elevator. Light-skinned dude, super light-skinned dude, but he was probably a super glider gremlin. You know what I'm saying? He was a mixed dude, probably. Okay, very light-skinned. And this dude, for one, pants was hanging 12 inches off his behind. And this man was like strapped with the extendo clip. I'm telling y'all guys, like, I get it, but I don't at the same time. Like, Buddy's just open carrying in the craziest way. There's a way to open carry. You have your you have your holster on your waist. You're doing it the right way. And the way that a lot of these dudes move, they got one in the chamber at all times. Like, bro, you're sagging with this joint. Your pants about falling off. You don't have a belt. It's just a lot of irresponsible gun owners that happen to be super gremlins on demon time.
That he was targeted by his killer. Investigators released this surveillance video in hopes it would lead them to the gunman responsible for killing the beloved father, husband, and business owner.
I really don't have the answers, and that's why the situation is so painful because
okay, so I do want to go back just a second, sorry.
On top of
responsible for killing the beloved father, husband.
She went to Spelman. He went to Morehouse. She went to Spelman. He went to Morehouse. Have we heard anything from Morehouse about this? Their alumni getting gunned down in the streets? You probably won't because they got students getting gunned down in the streets. So it's too much to even speak about. Okay? Too much to even speak about. Like, honestly, like, keep it a buck. At the PWIs, when somebody dies, it's a big deal. Okay? And there are reports, especially in this way. But, at the HBCUs, it's kind of like, okay, it's going to be some students who, don't make it past graduation. Like, that.
Husband and business owner.
I really don't have the answers, and that's why the situation is so painful because on top of me not having him here, I don't even know the motive behind it.
This past month has...
There is no motive, honey. There's no motive. I'm here to tell you that right now. There is no motive. It's, oh, we gonna rob him. He look like he got money. They pull up, they rob him. He don't got nothing. They want to catch a body. These super gremlins are on demon time.
It's been complete agony for the entire Key family.
There's really no normalcy for us. Sleepless nights. Haven't really had an appetite.
If you know anything about Desmond's murder, Felicia is urging you to speak up.
It's very disheartening that.
Well, God, I hate pointing out. I really do. But you got to every single time, because this is the community. This is the culture, bro. Like, I don't think y'all really understand. This is no snitch policy going into effect. This is the street code. Nobody's going to say anything, even if they saw anything. It's crazy, man.
Someone would want to continue to have a family in pain.
Felicia is optimistic that this case will be solved. There is a $40,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest. As always, if you know anything about this situation, take action and call Atlanta Police or Crime Stoppers. Outside Atlanta Police Headquarters, Brian Hill, Fox 5 News.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
I could be at work, you at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, YouTube? It's the Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video. All right, guys. So we are going to be breaking down this Roe v. Wade overturning situation, right? Because there was a leak within the Supreme Court that Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned. So I do want to show you how people are actually reacting to this thing. It's very interesting, So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to show you some videos, and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty and the, I mean, it's very deep. And we only have time to kind of graze over this discussion, but we're going to have fun while doing it. Okay. We're going to have fun while doing it. We're not going to be Debbie Downers. We're going to point out the facts. All right. We're definitely going to point out the facts. So let's see. Let me just get my articles loaded up. Let's see. All right. All right, here we go. So there are a lot of things going on when it comes to this discussion. Some things that I do not agree with at all, okay? Some things that I do not agree with at all when it comes to what all they're going to ban. So when it comes to the abortion thing, in some instances, they are taking it too far, all right? Like when it comes to, let's see, I got an article right here on my phone. Let me get to it right quick. Because basically, I think it was Tennessee and Mississippi. Okay. So Missouri, Tennessee, Louisiana all join in making IUDs and Plan B illegal. That is OD. That is OD. All right. Making the Plan B and all that kind of stuff illegal. That's kind of crazy. Says Peter Thiel, backed GOP senator candidate, wants to ban condoms and birth control. McConnell is now prepping for a nationwide on abortion. So they didn't finish the actual sentence. But basically, I don't agree with banning Plan Bs, condoms, or birth control. Okay, I think that we can rock out with that. All right, I'm cool with that. What I'm not cool with is the scoop. All right, and I'm gonna show you how they're making this very political right now. And then we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. I do want to show you some examples of women who actually advocate for abortion heavily, all right, which most women do. Most women advocate for abortion, all right? That's a fact, because they want to be able to absolve themselves of that said responsibility of raising a child and practicing sexual prudence. Shout out to Sigmund Fraud with the $5 super chat. He says, I caught another live. Buy yourself something shiny. Yes, I will. I will do that. I will do that. I appreciate the super chat.
Oh, say less.
But yeah, so let's get into some of the uproar that has been caused since the leak happened.
The battle cries of both sides of the abortion debate are reverberating across Illinois.
If we don't have access to safe and legal abortions, then women will suffer.
So I want you guys to pay attention to the Black women who are heavily advocating abortion. All right. A lot of times we see at these protests, it's white women, and we know that white women are less likely to get an abortion than Black women. All right. But they're out here and they're advocating for basically exterminating their own kids. It's kind of crazy to me because we talk about making a stronger Black community. I mean, isn't there strength in numbers? And we see the rate that Black women are aborting their children. It's preposterous, okay? And you can't deny that.
Completely lost in this discussion has been the littlest victim, the tiny preborn child.
Overnight, this settled precedent of half a century catapulted into the spotlight in Illinois' gubernatorial race.
For me, it's a day of gratitude, a day of gratitude that we can actually have a reflection of values, a value of life, of unborn children.
For too long, we have removed this issue from the democratic process. If Roe was overturned, it simply returns the regulation of abortion to the democratically elected members of the legislature.
2 years ago, Governor Pritzker signed a law expanding abortion rights and preemptively guaranteeing access in Illinois, regardless of how the High Court eventually rules.
The government shouldn't be telling women they can't make their own decisions about their own reproductive care.
So this is the bullshit that I be talking about, okay? It's not just you anymore. All right. You're eating for two, like I always say. And these women think they're only affecting themselves, but they're not. Okay. You have another life in your womb. That's a fact. It's a scientific fact.
The next generation shouldn't have fewer rights than ours.
If the Supreme Court does overturn Roe v. Wade in its final decision, the states surrounding Illinois are all poised to ban or severely restrict access to abortions. Illinois abortion providers say they're already seeing an increase in out-of-state patients seeking the procedure, and both Chicago's mayor and the governor say they're ready to welcome more.
Chicago will always be a beacon for women.
So this is a lesbian woman who has no dog in the fight. She's not planning on getting pregnant, but she's over here advocating for women to terminate their pregnancies. It's very interesting.
To express themselves, have total control over their bodies and their reproductive rights.
In Chicago, Liz Nagy, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, guys. So, I mean, they're going hard for this shit. Now, this is the political angle. They're going to use this angle in order to stack the House, in order to get their candidates in, because the abortion topic is a very polarizing discussion. And, I just think that I think the conservatives do not do a good job of handling this discussion. You OD when you start to do the birth control stuff in the condoms. I'm good with the criminalizing abortion and stuff like that. I'm fine with that. But once you go past that, it's like, yeah, I mean. Shout out to Spicy Parodies. He says, with the 199 super trap, he says Lori Lightfoot is not a human. Okay. So let's get into it.
That's right, Chubb. Democrats see a rare opportunity to reinvigorate their otherwise disillusioned base of voters ahead of what is likely to be a bleak midterm election for them.
So they know they're losing. All right. So they're going to use this topic in order to galvanize a real steady support base. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But at the end of the day, we're pretty much already going downhill. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it doesn't matter who gets into power. Can the tides turn? I don't know.
For the first time since 1973, abortion rights appeared likely to be stripped away. They can be made illegal. The argument that Democrats are planning to make to voters who, by the way, by margin.
Okay. So a lot of the argument that I hear is, well, it's old white men making this decision. So let's count the amount of old white men in the Supreme Court. All right. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 minorities, as in we have black male, female, female, female. And then, as you guys know, we got Ketanji Brown Jackson, OT Dubs, aka On the Way. So she pulling up soon. So you can't really say, oh, well, it's just old white men making the decision, because it's also old white men who are making the decision to be pro-choice as well. Okay. Shout out to Spicy Parodies again with the 199 super trap. He said, do you think this is a distraction from the virus? Nah, I think we're pretty much done with the virus shit.
Margins of 2-1 around the country agree with their view that Roe v. Wade should be upheld. They are going to argue that the way to protect abortion now is to vote Democrat up and down the ballot in governor's races, where those candidates are going to get to decide whether to sign or veto legislation around abortion. At the congressional level, they're going to argue that Republicans could pursue a nationwide abortion ban if this ruling comes down the way that draft opinion by Justice Alito suggested it would, and that other rights, President Biden said this today, other rights like same-sex marriage and contraception could be next under the 6-3 conservative majority.
And, I don't agree with that. Like, okay, y'all going a little too crazy if that is the actual agenda. Look, let these folks do whatever the fuck they want to do. But when it comes to infringing on another person's health, like abortion does, that's where I draw the line. All right. And it's like they're going OD with the condoms and the birth control shit. Look, man, y'all tripping on that. They are absolutely tripping on that. That's why I'm saying, like, you can't really, pin your wagon on the Republican shit, because them niggas is fucking wiling. Okay, they wiling like, bruh, y'all gonna ban birth control now? Niggas can't hit raw no more. Like, what the fuck? The hell is y'all doing? They trying to ban the IUDs? Like, nigga, what?
The most conservative in nearly a century that the Republicans in the Senate have built. That is the argument that Democrats are planning to use in TV ads, radio, digital ads, and field organizing. Strategists we talk to around the country on the Democratic side say this has lit a fire.
We've talked about the Democrats almost exclusively because the Republicans aren't talking about this, not about the content of the leak. Much different approach.
a very different approach, precisely the opposite one, Shep. Republicans see the same numbers everyone else does. They recognize this is not a winning political issue for them ahead of what is likely to be a very good midterm election for them. They have so far focused on the fact that this leaked. It was a startling breach of Supreme Court procedure, and they've steered the conversation away from the substance. They prefer to run the election on issues where President Biden's approval rating is weaker: economy, inflation, crime, immigration, and border security. And to the extent that they're talking about abortion at all, well, party leaders have advised Republican candidates to steer the conversation to a subcategory of abortion issues where Republicans have a winning argument, specifically the banning of late-term abortion. The reality, however, Shep, is that Republican states, conservative states around the country, are pursuing much more aggressive abortion bans.
Sahil Kapoor, thanks very much.
All right, guys. So I just want to show you there are extremes on both sides. Absolutely. So let's see. Officially. And all right. All right. Here we go. So, you know, if they're going that extreme, I don't agree with it. But I'm reading now. Okay, so they're saying that it's misinformation that they're trying to ban the Plan Bs. Okay, thank God. Let's see. Oh God. All right, let's see exactly what they want. So the narrative has been spun. I'm just gonna read this really quickly. Okay. Because this is a fact check, alleged fact check. I mean, it's coming from Tennessee. Okay. All right. So it says fact check. A new Tennessee abortion law does not ban Plan B morning after pills. Okay. So that's a good thing. Shout out to Spicy Parodies with the $4.99 Super Trap. He says Kevin Samuel's death was sad, but I'm glad that younger generations like yourself are still staying based. Hope you upload more debates. Stay strong.
Oh, say less.
Yes, sir. You already know. Okay, so let's see. A new Tennessee law which added criminal penalties to certain abortion restrictions does not ban emergency contraceptives like Plan B, despite widespread misinformation and misunderstanding on the issue circulating online this week. Okay, Governor Bill Lee signed HB 2416 into law last week, which adds criminal penalties for doctors who are not physically present with a patient when prescribing abortion medication. Abortion medication and Plan B or other morning after medications are not the same thing, all right? Though some reproductive health advocates worry an increasingly powerful anti-abortion movement could soon shift its sights to emergency contraceptives, no Tennessee laws currently restrict emergency contraceptive pills, all right? So you can still hit that Plan B. Morning after medications are safe, effective, and still available to purchase in Tennessee as over-the-counter medication. They do not require a doctor's prescription to purchase. And they just go into some basic facts. Is a Plan B an abortion pill? No. Plan B and other morning after pills are emergency contraceptives. Plan B is not an abortion pill. Emergency contraceptives prevent pregnancy from occurring. Abortion medications end an existing pregnancy. Emergency contraceptive pills use the drug levonorgestrel to delay ovulation and sometimes prevent an egg from attaching to the wall of the uterus, according to the Mayo Clinic. All right. So they get into these abortion pills, which we're not going to do. What we are going to do, though, is we're going to get into this podcast from Just Pearly Things. She was actually talking to a few sisters and a glider feminist, and they were in the debate about abortion, and she brought up an interesting topic that I asked through a super chat, and then I was DMing her because I'm like, yo, these sisters is bugging during this debate. So anyways, let's get into the video. It's pretty bonkers.
Yeah.
You need
Oh.
to do that.
So question, guys. This is one of the super chats. So we were talking about race a little bit before. And does it bother you, basically, that 79% of abortion clinics in America are in the Black and the brown communities, and Black women are 3 times more likely to get an abortion than white women? And Planned Parenthood was founded by a woman who wanted to eradicate the Black race, so she decided to put these Planned Parenthoods in Black communities in order and market to Black women in order to basically market abortions to them. And then that basically the Black population would be double today if it wasn't for abortion in the US.
I'm sorry. It's just when they provide free
Abortions.
abortion.
Yeah. So the woman that started it, she believed in
eradicating the Black race.
Yeah, basically. And so she said, we're gonna market Planned Parenthood in Black neighborhoods. And basically now Black women are 3 times more likely to get an abortion, and the Black population would be double today if in the US if it wasn't for abortion. So it kind of worked.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable with the idea a eugenicist I'm speaking the wrong language now. Had been successful in. Okay, sorry. I've got a really bad voice today, so I might whisper. I don't know if whispering's better.
No, whispering is way worse.
Speaking to my. Okay, so I'm uncomfortable that someone that had that kind of plan had succeeded in that kind of plan in a sense. But I do think that abortion is still valid and people still need that option.
So, sister number 1, abortion is still valid. And these are UK sisters, okay? So, but I would not be surprised if it was the same result as it is in the States here when it comes to their mindsets.
And it isn't what it is. It isn't the same as it was in the past. So now it's not just for Black women. It's not targeted just at Black women. It's available to all races and all people. But I do feel like there is still the history and that culture maybe of abortion or going to Planned Parenthood or in impoverished areas or typically systematically oppressed areas where abortion is the only option that's marketed to those people, if you know what I mean. I'm uncomfortable with that, but I'm not uncomfortable.
So earlier they were talking about Black people don't have access to reproductive health care. And then Pearl points out the fact that, 80% of these facilities are in the Black and brown community. So now they in her mind, she can't understand the links to those arguments, okay? Because obviously Black women have access to these reproductive inhibitors, right? But at the same time, she's trying to act like it's almost like the voting rights thing where they're assuming that Black people don't have IDs. Okay, very similar in that way. And the issue is that other Black people who are privileged, like these young ladies are, they really believe that shit. They believe niggas in the hood don't have access to condoms. They believe niggas in the hood don't know how to have safe sex. They believe niggas in the hood, can't find plan Bs. Okay. And it's really just disrespectful. Okay. And what it's usually coined as is the bigotry of low expectations. And that happens in the community all the damn time.
That there's a choice because I want people to be able to choose what they do with their bodies at the end of the day. But I'm uncomfortable that a eugenicist has successfully done that in a sense. It makes me uncomfortable.
My question is, if Black women are having more abortions than white women in these areas, is that because they're falling pregnant more?
Wow. Great conclusion. And this is the issue that she still doesn't understand. The Black population in the States is about 13%. And then a little bit over half of those are Black women. So they're making up for the majority of the abortions. And they're only 13% or less than 13% of the population. That's the issue. So she's like, well, are Black women actually having more abortions because they're having more kids and having sex more. Well, yeah, essentially. But the numbers should not even come close to other demographics at all.
That is my question. Is it as opposed to they're more likely to get an abortion if they do fall pregnant, as opposed to the amount of people who do? Because then I think we've got another argument again about if the majority of people who are impoverished in America within these communities are Black, then that is another reason why more Black women would be falling pregnant. And
the reason why more Black women are falling pregnant is because the reality is Black women are more promiscuous. They having more sex at a younger age. Okay. And they're not using what they have learned about safe sex in the practice. Okay. And that's just the reality of the situation. Like, the fact that these sisters are out fucking every demographic is wild, okay? And I mean, it's pretty much reflective in public because everywhere you go, you see sisters twerking. You don't even have to be no music on. Bitch just might be walking down the street twerking.
as well, if a lot of Black men in those communities commit crime because poverty, different reasons, systemically oppressed, then is that why these women are also then not statistically more likely to be sleeping with offenders and things like that? Like, for me, those also
That's a
tie
really
into
good connection that you've made there.
Actually, it's not.
I didn't get the last bit.
Yeah, I didn't understand. So are you saying I didn't get it. So wait.
The only one who got that was the other bitch whose mind is just in outer space.
So you think that
if there's more offenders in your community, statistically, you're more likely
to have sex with an offender.
Okay.
Because there's a higher probability you'll have sex with an offender if there's a lot more in your community.
No, I meant like you were asking about the abortion rates.
Yes,
That's
sorry.
what I was asking.
Is it that if you took the same, so if you did it as a ratio, basically, of like Black women are more likely to have an abortion if they fall pregnant,
compared to,
or is it a case of more Black women have abortions because more Black women are falling pregnant?
More Black women are having abortions because more Black women are, what she calls it, falling pregnant. Did she slip up and fall on the dick? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Why would she be falling pregnant? Like, did she slip up and, slide on the dick? Notice that, and I'm not trying to bag on the shorty, but notice the like, shorty got legs wide open, advocating for the scoop. It's just crazy, bruh.
I think I'm not 100% sure, so this could be wrong, but from what I understand, and guys, let me know in the chat. Sometimes the chat be like fact checking.
Yeah.
Stuff. But I think it's Black women are more likely to have an abortion. I don't think the falling pregnant rates are different.
Okay.
Oh yeah, sisters is definitely getting pregnant more and at a younger age. So
That would be something I'd be interested to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would make a difference.
Like that.
Yeah, but it really doesn't make a difference because what are they, like, less than 5% of the population account for the majority of abortions. So that means hoes is getting multiple abortions. Okay. This is how sick this shit is. They're getting multiple abortions.
That would just completely change. Like, if it would really depend on which statistics is more viable.
It would make me more comfortable about the idea that someone had created that in mind.
I think that's
created that in mind. No, that was the sole purpose.
It's wrong to do that to any race. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, eugenics is wrong.
Yeah.
But like,
so do you think, like, now in 2022, like, because I'd imagine if Nike was founded as like they wanted to eliminate the Black race, like, people would be in an uproar. But for some reason, like, Planned Parenthood gets a pass when they're doing that. The Black population would be doubled. Like, that's crazy.
I know what you mean by that.
I think with it being a choice, so no one is like, oh, Pearl, you go to Planned Parenthood right now. Like, you get it. Like, you have a choice in going there. But I think
of course you got a choice, but it's like the liquor store being around the corner and you an alcoholic. Like, if the bitch is fucking all the time, then yeah, she just gonna Okay, let me pop up at the little abortion clinic. Let me pull up at parent, because she knows she fucking all the time, and she's using the abortion as birth control when she should just actually be using the birth control as birth control, right?
It is something to explore outside of this, and also see how true these statistics are, because oftentimes they are like skewed. And I'm not saying that they have to be 100% wrong, but oftentimes, especially when representing Black people, they are not accurate.
What? Look, man, these motherfucking hoes, like, I swear, they're like super conspiracy theorists. Like, come on, dude. The statistics are wrong, because, of course, not every single person is going to be counted in the census. Of course not. All right. But the data that they do get is very accurate. Okay. You can only work with the data that you're given. And that's why I'm saying a lot of these chicks, they just don't understand how statistics are formed through sample sizes and distribution tables. It goes straight over their heads.
And so I just think it's something to be explored. But if people are like going there willingly, I don't necessarily feel bad, because likely they're in the situation where they're not.
These are your sisters. People go in there willingly. I don't feel bad. So you don't feel bad for the child, the fetus that got aborted? No, I don't feel bad. I ain't know his name. He didn't even get named yet. Oh, okay.
Gonna be able to take care of these kids. So now you're saying, oh, the population could be double, but are you also then saying that it could be double of people that are not going to be loved, that are not going to be like instilled like a value of life? Like,
wow. I mean, is that what she thinks of Black people? Hold on. Is that what she thinks of Black women? Is that what she thinks of Black women, that they're not going to be loved, that they're not going to have an installation from their parents of the value of life? Is she saying that these women are just going to continue to breed super gremlins on demon time?
not saying that their life isn't valuable, but they're not going to be taught any principles that are going to like make or break their life. So now you're saying, oh, it could be doubled. But in this sense, they're not going to be nurtured. So they're going to be more criminals. And now you're going to say, oh, yeah, like all the Black people are criminals. Well, you just said you wanted half of them to be here, like double. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Also, on the topic of redemption and our short-term memory, you can also make this argument for the same of companies like Hugo Boss, who made the suit.
Before we get into the clothing line companies and all that bullshit, that sister right there in the corner, her point was very eugenicist. Like, she was basically saying that, hey, you know, these sisters don't need to have any more kids, which I don't necessarily disagree with, in the sense that they shouldn't be fucking in the first place. Like, they don't even deserve to be fucking. You know what I mean? But then they'll also say, oh, well, she should be able to do whatever she wants with her body. She should be able to fuck whoever she wants and have as many abortions as she wants. Okay? And it doesn't matter how late term the abortion is. Like, and the next question they're going to get into is crazy, but she's going to go on a tangent about like all these designer companies and they worked with Nazis and all this kind of stuff. The difference is they're selling clothes. The difference is they're selling clothes and Planned Parenthood is selling genocide.
Nazi stuff for Nazis, and lots of other German companies. Coco Chanel was a Nazi sympathizer. Like
today's they were in the past.
Yeah,
like completely different people running it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but do you think it's like okay, it's one thing, right? If like people choose to get an abortion, and I understand it's still a choice, but they're marketing this to young girls. Like they're specific. They specifically pick lower income communities and market it to those communities. Like isn't that?
Yeah,
they talk about that.
How do they do
they
that?
have TV ads and stuff that they only show in these communities?
No, it's proximity, dumbass. Just like she said, 80% of the abortion clinics are in the hood. So they don't even have to put out an ad. The bitches is just like, they fuck oh, I think I'm pregnant. And then they see the clinic right across the damn street. So I do want to get into the woman who is in charge of Planned Parenthood now, because the other chick made a point about the leadership. Okay, she said, well, it's totally different people, and they don't have the same agenda that they used to have in the past. All right, so I'm going to show you who is the acting president, or the CEO, if you will, of Planned Parenthood to this day. Okay.
When I was a kid, I remember marching alongside my parents, who were boldly Black and boldly proud. You could say I was a movement baby. I was born in the midst of major social justice reform after the landmark victories of the civil rights movement and just before Roe v. Wade. My parents taught me what it meant to be a Black woman in America. And
Okay. So you hear her with all these, but my parents taught me how to be a Black woman in America and all this kind of stuff. Then we get into the reality of her situation. So I'm gonna let her eat. I'm gonna let her keep going. Okay, I'm gonna let her keep going.
And that by using my voice, I could help protect the rights of women, of Black women, and all people. So I got to work.
How do we use popular culture to talk about, transforming healthcare?
African American rights, our basic civil rights. When we put our messages out, do we know the kind of impact that we're having around colorblindness? Knowing what makes each individual tick will help us see each other as humans.
This past year, as the acting president and CEO of Planned Parenthood Federation of America, we took on tough challenges together. We navigated the exclusion of Planned Parenthood health centers from the Title X family planning program.
We refuse to engage with an administration that is going to force us not to deliver the best possible care to our patients.
We fought back against attacks on access to abortion across the country.
So today we filed a lawsuit against the state of Missouri. We are fighting against these bans.
And we helped expand telehealth to maintain access to care for Planned Parenthood patients through the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. And now, after nearly a year as your acting president, I am incredibly proud and humbled to lead us forward as the permanent president and CEO of Planned Parenthood Federation of America and Planned Parenthood Action Fund.
Oh, awesome.
The work ahead of us is a steep climb.
Oh, that's so
but we have
great.
strength and resilience.
Well, nice.
We have the power to increase access and deepen impact for patients who need accessible and affordable care. We will take on the hard work of defending access to safe and legal abortion against historic threats. And you know what? We're going to reckon with racism and fight for greater equity in healthcare delivery and in the world.
Oh, really?
So to everyone in the Planned Parenthood family across the country, our staff, our volunteers, our patients, our supporters, thank you. I'm so proud to be here with you.
Oh, awesome. So wasn't that such a sweet presentation? Well, she was talking all this blackety black shit. And I'm not saying that you can't be pro-black if you, date outside of your race. But she was talking a lot of blackety black shit. And this is her husband, okay? So this is the man who she is dealing with, all right? This is the man that she's dealing with. This is her hubby hub. And just to give you guys a background on this guy, his name is Robert A. Johnson, okay? Robert A. Johnson, very well established businessman, all right? And we're going to get into his Wikipedia because she obviously divested. So she was talking all that blackety black shit, but then she is like, fuck it, I'm about to divest. Okay. So that is her hubby. That is the love of her life. That is her soulmate. So let's get into Robert A. Johnson. And guys, I know Wikipedia isn't, the best source, but for time's sake, this is what we're going to do. Robert A. Johnson is the executive director of the Institute for New Economic Thinking and regularly contributes to the New Deal 2.0 with his financier column. He also formerly traded currency on Wall Street under George Soros. All right. So very interesting that this guy basically used to work under George Soros, and now his wife is the CEO / president of Planned Parenthood. Johnson claims that unemployment and underemployment have led to lower tax revenues, which have led to a budget deficit problem for the U.S. government under George W. Bush and Barack Obama. He also cites the lack of a tax on richer Americans who have inherited wealth at birth or at a young age as another reason for this, in addition to the effects of government bailouts to large capitalist institutions in the years after 2008. Okay, so you can kind of feel a weird vibe. All right, you kind of feel a weird vibe. So she's saying, oh, it's not the same people running it, but that's pretty much the old guard. Okay, you have a guy who is, I mean, I'm sure that his strings are being pulled. Okay, and so are his wife's strings being pulled by a whole nother man who is absolutely the old guard, the what they call the 1%, okay, the old money. It's right there.
Yeah,
like I want to know. Like,
well, 60. I want to say it's either 69 or 70% of all the abortion clinics are located in those communities, and then on top of that, like Margaret, like the lady who started it had like a marketing plan written out talking about how she wanted to market it.
But like, how did she do it?
I've never actually seen.
They're like, how did she do it, bitch? Speeches, and I actually have her speeches that we're going to get into. We're an hour mark in, guys. We are an hour mark in. So we are going to get into her speeches. I do want to break down a little bit more of this video because it was very interesting to see the Black women advocating for this shit.
Now that you said, I've never actually seen an abortion mark. I've
Like
never
marketing scheme.
I've never seen an advert or or anything to
I
do
don't
with
think
that. I've never seen one.
Necessary
advert in that sense, but I think as far as placement and just you saying that, like it riddled
It's
in my
more-
head
yeah.
thinking, because obviously I'm the only one aside from Pearl that's from America, and thinking about the like Planned Parenthoods that I know of. I'm pretty sure it's not the only one, but the only one that I can think of is like in a lower income area with an immense amount of marginalized people. So
Is Planned
but I
Parenthood?
don't think it's just there, but I think it is something to explore. Like I think overall it is a.
But is that the
something
only
can be
place you can get an
explored.
abortion?
No,
is Planned
but- no,
Parenthood?
and it's not.
No, they fucking retarded. It's not the only place you can get an abortion, but the majority of the facilities are in the hood.
They don't only
Like,
service
that's my
abortion.
question to you.
No, but
Guys, one at a time, please.
I'm saying like
One at
it's
a time.
kind of like when you think about it, it's kind of messed up because it's like then only the rich, like it's almost, and I don't think people directly mean this, but in a way it's saying that only like rich lives are more valuable because that's where the Planned Parenthood is.
But can
And
you
that's where
only
they're
get an
marketing
abortion
it.
at Planned Parenthood, or can you get it at like a doctor? Like
Yeah,
a
this is my
hospital?
question because
then
then it's a case of
it's
if
not
you-
just about
if
Planned
you don't
Parenthood.
need
then-
Planned Parenthood because you have
The majority of the abortions are being done through Planned Parenthood. Come the fuck on.
money to afford to go private.
You
for
can
it,
go to
then
your
you don't
doctor
need
that's in
Planned
your own
Parenthood.
area. That's
Yeah.
what, yeah.
But while we're mentioning this, thank you for bringing that up. A lot of white people will, especially like say in politics, will say I'm a senator and you're my daughter. Well, I'm saying, oh, no abortions, no abortions. I'm sure as hell not letting you be known for your abortion.
Right.
So I'm going to take you privately, and no one's knowing about this abortion.
Bruh. Nigga, the stats, when you go into that damn hospital or the Planned Parenthood clinic or whatever, when you pull up, you're putting your race, you're putting your ethnicity. Facts. So they're gonna know who's doing it. They may not have your name on the CDC data and shit, but they know who the fuck's doing it. Come on.
And we're not utilizing these government services. I'm going to my privatized healthcare.
But that's more the
So you can have
average- the
private
average- but the
abortions.
average white person isn't making that kind of money Like the average white person isn't
Exactly.
in that income bracket where they're in a politician situation where they're high. Like
It's
that's
still
not
a wealth advantage. Like generational wealth is a thing. You have to acknowledge that.
Sure. Generational wealth is a thing.
Yeah, so you're gonna have more resources.
Yeah, and guess what? Black people have generational wealth too. What they do with that shit is on them. But just to say, oh, well, white people are the only ones who got generational wealth, that's bullshit.
And more money. Like a lot of Black people are starting their generation 1-2 generations ago as far as like their money, whereas white people can go back to the beginning of slavery or like settling in America. So yeah, you can look at it on a different
not
aspect.
necessarily, because the majority of people in the U.S. came from like after slavery.
But still,
So,
even the
like-
ones that came like towards the end, they were able to benefit off of the end of slavery and these different jobs that were repurposed after slavery and able to like start working. Like Black people were not able to like sustain a living or earn in this sense. Like white people at the end of the day are like, America is built to benefit white people.
Right.
So at the end of the
Lord have mercy. America is meant to build people who create houses or housing and people who create jobs. It's not, oh, America is built to benefit white people. No, it's built to benefit people who create housing and people who create jobs. It just so happens that white people have figured that shit out. That's literally the only difference. That's the only difference. Okay? And there's some brothers and sisters who have figured that out too by this time. There's some dynamite investors, you know, who are out here killing it, who are creating jobs, creating housing. But this mindset is so toxic to the community. It's crazy.
day, you won't see it because it's not meant to be like, hey, you guys are being good, like treated better. It's very subliminal.
Wouldn't you say this is like contributing to the problem though? If they're marketing abortions to low income neighborhoods and they're basically eradicating.
But it's not only available there.
But they're not like marketing.
You're right, you're right. It's not only available there.
She's like, they're not marketing. They're just placing the facility right next to your house. That's not marketing.
But you don't think it's a little bit messed up? Like that I don't know how you can defend this, especially
Wait, like what's messed up about having accessible healthcare in a poor area?
No, that's not what's messed up.
But that isn't that what Planned Parenthood is?
What are
though?
you saying, Pearl?
Yeah.
Exactly. Because what I'm getting from it is that it's messed up the fact that it's messed up the fact that the whole thing was built to eradicate the black race. That's what I'm.
Well, it's messed
That's
up, but it
messed
was
up.
built to do that, and they're doing it. That's what's messed up.
That's messed up, but that's
you could say, okay, we have new people in charge, but they're still doing the same thing.
Okay, let's talk about it from the perspective. Okay, Black people are living in poor areas, and that's where Planned Parenthood is. The people that don't have access to expensive healthcare or privatized healthcare, but you can still get an abortion somewhere else, and the location of that abortion could be in a hospital in an affluent area. Is that being marketed to rich people? Like that logic, I don't think it holds.
Well,
it holds because the majority of the facilities, I swear these bruh, they literally will not take in the logic. The majority of facilities, just like niggas be complaining, well, they be having gun stores and liquor stores right next to the hood, and they expect us not to drink and kill ourselves to death. It's the same fucking logic. Okay? Like, what the fuck?
Because Planned Parenthood is the #1 provider of abortions in the U.S.
They're not going to public-private abortions, are they?
But it's #1 because obviously,
It's the cheapest option. It's the most available option. I don't think that because of like the availability and the location, it makes it more.
No, it's #1 because sisters use it. That's why it's #1. It's #1 because sisters use it.
Marketed
I get what
towards
you're
that
saying.
audience.
I can understand both sides, and like at the end of the day, I feel like just overall abortion is someone's choice. Like, no, I don't. Most cases, people are not being forced. Like, I feel like maybe a few years back, but most times now people are getting an abortion by their own merit. So
Dude, of course they're not gonna be bro, these sisters is skipping to the damn clinics. Nowadays, back in the day, they try to hide it, they'd be a little embarrassed. Nowadays, hell, there was this Instagram model, Miss Greenway. She was talking, I had 4 abortions. She said that shit proudly.
like I do get the argument, but you're choosing to do that. So it's your choice at the end of the day.
Okay, fair enough. So then the last question of the night. Okay. When do you guys think life begins? Like at what point in a pregnancy? Do you guys support abortion up to like up to birth? Is that like
I don't think up to birth is not like a comfortable thing.
I would say, because the thing is, from like I thought, from when you get pregnant, I think there's like a certain like timeline, I think, that you get between like you can have an abortion and it's too late. I don't know how long that is for. Yeah, there we go. So I feel like the life would probably begin, I'd say, after that, because that's like but that's what going off what the doctors are saying. That's what I think.
You can have an abortion after that, but only if it's got very serious medical implications. And so this is for me, like, I believe that you should have access to an abortion right the way up until you give birth if you have a very serious medical condition.
Okay, so she's going to the medical condition exception, so we'll hear her out.
I.e., the baby is already dead and it needs to be aborted because it's going to be stillborn, or it could kill.
Bro, that's a whole different situation. Come on, that's a miscarriage. Like at that point, it ain't even an abortion; it's a fucking miscarriage.
You, or it could seriously harm you. I think that's fine. For me, I would say up until about the 24-week point. This is again not speaking on, I don't know everyone's experiences, but
bruh, 24 weeks. 24 weeks. That's 6 months. She said she already did the exceptions. Oh, well, the exception is if it's gonna harm the mother or if the baby is already dead. Then I okay, yeah, I'm fine. Serious medical conditions, I believe in that too. But then she goes on to say, but if none of those factors are in play, 24 weeks. Lord have mercy. So let's see what a 24-week pregnant belly looks like. Okay? Let's see what a 24-week pregnant belly looks like. All right, let's get into it. If they let me click it. So this is fucking, oh Lord have mercy. He's a little baby. All right, here we go. Let me share my screen. 24 weeks. "24 weeks. Look at the baby. These bitches is fucking sick, man. Look, 24 weeks. She's okay with that. She is okay with aborting the baby in this stage. It's fucking insane. This is what it looks like on the outside. Okay. This one is going to break down this video. They're going to break down the progression. So there's this debate. Where does the life start? All this kind of shit. Bro, if these hoes will abort this, these bitches are on demon time. Wow. That is insane. You got to protect the baby while wearing your seatbelt. They say your hair will get thicker. Booty will get fatter. This is a game, y'all. This is the motherfucking game. These women are sick. Okay. That was scary, bruh. 24 weeks? Oh, okay.
For me.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, that's crazy.
I mean, obviously, if I found out I was pregnant, I would aim to have the abortion as soon as possible.
But how fast can you have the abortion? Because you don't find out you're pregnant till like how many weeks later?
Yeah.
No, you miss one period. That's
if
1 month
she's saying,
gone.
like,
The
if
second
the
month,
baby's
that's
6
like
months old,
One at a time.
I think at that point, just maybe just give it up for adoption, because it's like, okay, if it's past the clump of cells, so it's like you at that point, everyone should be able to acknowledge.
See, and this is why it's just a clump of cells. This is why that argument is dead in the fucking water, because they advocate for abortions up to 6 months. So then, like, there's not even a point in mentioning, oh, it's just a clump of cells. There's no fucking point.
Acknowledge that.
The last mile of the race.
And it's like everyone should be able to acknowledge that that is actually a baby, not like just a clump of cells, because after a couple months, like
of course, I think it's up until 24 weeks that baby is still not, or the fetus is.
It's not even showing.
Up until 24 weeks.
Not about it showing or not.
What, bitch?
I'm saying like in your stomach, like rather
it was like
you
6
know it or
months
not.
old. I think that's
This is 6 months. Like,
I'm not gonna lie to you.
That's baby.
Yeah, that's okay.
Like that's illegal. Like I don't think you can have a abortion. Isn't like in the UK. You can't have it unless you have a really good grounding and a reason after 24 weeks.
Yeah. My point is
so it wouldn't be like that. It wouldn't be an actual baby that. Yeah.
My point is that for me,
24 weeks is a fucking baby.
I personally would advocate
Is this
up
an
until
embryo?
the 24-week point.
That bitch is sick. Shout out to RJ with the $10 super trap. He says, if you ask me, human/mammal life starts as a sperm. Yes, sperm is the earliest stage of our lives. Think about it.
From the
Interesting.
point of view that it's not actually viable outside of the womb before that point.
Yeah.
For me personally, I would of course aim to have it as soon as possible, and I have like pretty regular periods, and I'm pretty on it with regards to testing pregnancy and also sexual health testing. I encourage everybody to get tested, to get tested for STDs, regardless of if you're actually having protected sex or
Even
not. It's
if
still
you're
a
with
good
the
thing.
same partner,
and
just get it.
Yeah, but and so for me, I would hope that I would be nowhere near the 24-week point.
Yeah,
I
feel like it would be a hard decision.
6 months of no periods, like
I know someone who only knew she was pregnant when she was in labor.
You know, some people don't actually show they even have a
What did she think? Did she think she was getting in?
Not everyone. No, some people get pregnant when they're on the pill. Some people get pregnant when they're on the
And not
pill.
everyone is really small.
So
or really
question.
thin.
I'm trying to. I kind of want to wrap up the show, so I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
of
So
course.
6 months. What would you say?
I cannot even say a proper time, but I feel like
Pay attention to what the black women say.
Ballpark.
Girl, I don't know how the baby looks, but
yeah,
let's
pick one.
Bring it up. Pick one.
I think say yes at 6 months, because see that
Lord have mercy. Going along with the white feminist agenda, and then the white feminist in the middle is like, haha, God got that bitch.
that's like still on the fence, but that's a
On the fence.
No, the 3 months it's like it's like
Man
in
said
between like
borderline.
Yeah, I mean, 3 months for me, I would say like 12 within the 12-week point. Like
so
the
I guess
NHS
somewhere
advocates
between the
is a
3
good-
and 6 months you need to cut it off.
Because it could be even more traumatic for everyone else involved, like the people that have to perform that abortion. You got to think about those people.
Oh,
like,
that's crazy to think about.
yeah, because as a person, like a doctor or whoever has to do that, that is not going to be comfortable to be pulling out something that it looks
That
like
big, yeah.
that's looking like a live.
They
Wow, she thought about somebody other than herself.
can't just pull it out. They have to like
Juicy.
cut it and then they vacuum pieces
Let me.
out.
That makes
It's
me
the
comfortable.
truth.
I know it's the truth, but I don't. Yeah,
I just
think
think-
it's
Truth
comfortable.
hurts.
She said that makes me uncomfortable. Oh, okay.
that
So you're between 3 and 6 months, you think, ish?
Yeah, for like legality, but for me, never.
Okay, for you, never. Or for you personally, never. Like you wouldn't
Yeah.
get one, but you'd say like legally 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I'd say the doctor thing, where from when
I think
you
it's like
can't have an
24
abortion after that. Like,
Bruh. You know, and I'm not trying to bag on this dude, but men have become so fucking soft. I'll say the doctor thing. Like, bruh, that's a fucking cop out. Let your nuts drop on these hoes and tell them what you really feel, bruh.
Or what?
24 weeks.
Show him
Yeah,
the chart.
the-
Show him the
the-
chart.
Okay.
Show me
This nigga just agreed with 24 weeks. What the fuck is wrong with these niggas, bro?
the chart. Show me the chart.
His
Let me.
opinions align with NHS guidelines.
Yeah, the doctor, the doctor,
Okay,
the good.
okay. What do you say?
The
What do
doctor
you say?
recommends.
until it's
That looks
able
like
to
an
be
alien, bro.
passed.
What the hell?
That's
So
like the same as NHS guidelines.
Wait, so you would be okay with an abortion at 8 months?
I said I feel like
No.
I said when the
I'd say
baby
6
is able to live by itself out of the womb.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I believe that's when they should illegalize it.
Okay.
Wait, I want everyone to see the picture and see if
Show
like
her the
your answer
pictures.
changes.
Pass it
Because,
around.
like,
Show
no,
me the
because
baby.
I feel like it like makes a difference like looking at it like that. But I do believe that like
Because
you know, if the baby is able to fend for itself, dang, what is that theory? Like, you know, survival of the fittest, basically. Like, if you can't fend for yourself,
What's the baby gonna do? Karate chop his way out of the belly?
no, that's not the point. Her point is saying that like she believes that you should be able to get rid of the baby until the baby would be able to survive. So like some babies like so tiny, if they're born, they can't survive without like
breathe. They can't breathe by themselves.
You know what
They
I just
can't.
realized?
Yeah.
That goes back to money because like when the baby would survive depends on the hospital. And it kind of goes.
All right, guys. So you heard what the sister said. Most of them were down with 24-week abortions. So now we're going to get into some of the reading portion of this program. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go to a brief commercial break. And then we will resume the program.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Medgar Evers, and it's a very tranquil scene compared to just a couple hours ago where a drive-by shooting just took place. Excuse me, I'm getting live updates as we speak. I've just been updated to the amount of casualties from this drive-by shooting, and I'm getting reports that 2 people were actually declared deceased and 27 others were shot and injured but are in stable condition. And although we must pray for the families of the fallen, we must also praise God for the aim of the super gremlin. If you want to know more about the victims of this crime, make sure you add BGZM News 17 on Patreon at www.patreon.com/blackgenzmindset. Also, don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment on the video to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this gun violence in the streets. For more hard-hitting news coverage from the community, by the community, I'm Janquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
And cut.
All right, dog. Let's get the out of here before these niggas come back.
Whoa. Yo. Ain't that nigga J?
Nah, that ain't me. That ain't me.
He just went live
That
with
ain't
that
me.
funky ass suit
that's
on.
that nigga. That's not me.
Hey, get that nigga.
Janquavius
Hey,
Jackson,
jump on that
here
nigga,
live,
man.
reporting from Atlanta, Georgia. Pray for me.
All right, guys. Okay. So that was crazy. You can see they were all for it. All right, so let's get into it. So I did want to throw out this quick fact. This article is titled "Rape and Incest Account for Hardly Any Abortions, so why are they now a focus?" All right, and this came out in 2019, May 24th. So just 1% of women obtain an abortion because they became pregnant through taking of the WAP, and less than 0.5% do so because of incest, according to Gut Matcher Institute. Yet the battle over exceptions for both has garnered outsized attention in the national abortion debate. So this is what they like to do. They like to go to very much extremes in order to argue their point for abortion. So just like the white feminist who had her legs spread wide open, okay, was talking about, oh, well, you know, if it's going to kill me or harm the baby, or if the baby's dead, if it's a stillborn birth, then you should be abortion. Oh, like that's a miscarriage, okay? You wouldn't even classify that. Yes, they're going to have to abort the baby, but ultimately that's a miscarriage. And that's just the reality of the situation. And sometimes the baby may not be breathing when it is in the womb, and then they can resuscitate it when it comes out. So you never know. But they like to go to these extreme examples. They like to go to these extreme examples so that they can make you feel some type of way about the abortion topic. Like, well, what if she's about to die and she's bleeding out of her asshole and her eyes are bleeding and her ears are bleeding and the baby is like ravishing her insides and changing her body, and after she's pregnant, she's not gonna have a fat ass and her titties are gonna sag, so just abort it. Like, that's literally the type of lane that they go. Okay. So anyways, I did want to point out that fact. So whenever people use that argument, you guys will be able to have a educated retort for that. All right. And then we have another article advocating basically marketing. This is soft marketing to the Black and brown community. And this comes from PBS News. And they say Black and Hispanic people have the most to lose if Roe is overturned. This headline is, it's almost like a joke, right? Because what you're losing with these abortions are the children, are the babies. Could have been healthy babies. You never know the trajectory of that individual's life. But yet, they're saying if you can't have abortions, you have a lot to lose. So if you can't kill the baby, you have a lot to lose. This is very racially charged. And this comes from Jackson, Mississippi. If you are a Black or Hispanic in a conservative state that already limits access to abortions, you are far more likely than a white person to have one. So they already know that Black and Hispanic women are more likely to have abortions, and they want that makes them salivate. That makes them want you to go even more. If the U.S. Supreme Court allows states to further restrictions or even ban abortions, minorities will bear the brunt of it, according to statistics analyzed by the Associated Press. The potential impact of minorities became all the more clear on Monday with the leak of draft Supreme Court opinions suggesting the court's conservative majority is poised to overthink the landmark 1973 decision legalizing abortion. The draft decision is not yet final, but it sent shockwaves through the country. Overturning the Roe v. Wade decision would give states authority to decide abortion's legality. Roughly half, largely in the South and Midwest, are likely to quickly ban abortion. When it comes to the effects of minorities, the numbers are unambiguous. In Mississippi, people of color comprise 44% of the population, but 81% of women receiving abortions. Let's run that shit the fuck back. When it comes to the effects on minorities, the numbers are unambiguous. That means we know what the fuck is going on. In Mississippi, people of color comprise of 44% of the population, but 81% of women receiving abortions. So they're half the population, but comprise of 81% of the abortions, and of that 44%, I guarantee majority of them are Black women. Okay, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, which tracks health statistics. In Texas, they're 59% of the population and 74% of those receiving abortions. Let's read it again. They're 59% of the population and 74% of those receiving abortions. The numbers in Alabama are 35% and 69% in Louisiana. Minorities represent 42% of the population, according to the state health department, and about 72% of those receiving abortions. Okay. Abortion restrictions are racist, said Kathy Torres, an organizing manager with Frontera Fund, a Texas organization that helps pay for abortions. They directly impact people of color, Black, brown, indigenous people, people who are trying to make ends meet. Okay, they shouldn't have let their ends meet with that meat that busts all in they wop. All right, why the great disparities? Lori Burtman Roberts, executive director of the Alabama-based Yellowhammer Fund, which provides financial support for abortion, said women of color in states with restrictive abortion laws often have limited access to health care and lack of choice for effective birth control. Schools often have ineffective and inadequate sex education. Oh, so it's the school's fault that these kids are not learning how to fuck properly. Okay? If abortions are outlawed, those same women, often poor, will likely have the hardest time traveling to distant parts of the country to terminate pregnancies or raising children they might struggle to afford, said Roberts. So give them up for adoption. Who is Black and once volunteered at Mississippi's only abortion clinic? We're talking about folks who are already marginalized, Roberts said. So it sounds like they got a mammy ushering these women into the abortion clinics in Mississippi. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but you see the mindset. You see the mindset. Even in the headline, Black and Hispanic people have the most to lose if Roe is overturned. No, what we had to lose was our population growth, which has been diminished because of the readily access to all these abortions. Okay. So if anything, the conservatives or the quote unquote GOP candidates are trying to make sure that you can actually bring your pregnancies to term and essentially continue your lineage and continue populating within your race. So anyways, we are going to get into this policy report that comes from urbancure.org. And it is named The Effects of Abortion on the Black Community. And we have a research team of 4: Christina Daniels, Catherine Davis, Ifioma Anunkor, and Star Parker. Okay. So this comes from the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. And we are going to get into the specifics of this. It's a very long report. I'm going to try and get into as much as I can, but I also have other things that I want to get into. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, introduction. Politicians argue for abortion largely because they do not want to spend the necessary money to feed, clothe, and educate more people. Here, arguments for inconvenience and economic savings like precedence over arguments for human value and human life. Psychiatrists, social workers, and doctors often argue for abortion on the basis that the child will grow up mentally and emotionally scarred. But who of us is complete? If incompleteness were the criteria for taking life, we would all be dead. If you can justify abortion on the basis of emotional incompleteness, then your logic could also lead you to killing for other forms of incompleteness, blindness, crippleness, or old age. And that comes from Jesse Jackson, January 1977. That was back then when he was pro-life. Now he has switched his tune and he is pro-choice. He's out there marching and protesting with the feminists, advocating for abortion so that he can get his dick sucked by some white women. All right. Since the 1973 Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision, over 54 million babies have been aborted in centers around the nation. It can be said with certainty that the practice has had a personal, practical, and political effect on communities and citizens. Every town, city, ethnicity, and age group has suffered from the tragic effects of this mostly surgical and sometimes medical procedure. The true toll of abortion may remain unknown and immeasurable because the data, for the most part, has not been collected or has been ignored by those responsible for its collection. The so-called, kind of like the FBI not dropping the 2021 crime data, the so-called right to privacy that allow abortion on demand was created by the Supreme Court for women. But for 40 years now, that right has been extended to the abortionists as well. This shroud of privacy enables abortionists to literally get away with murder and mayhem, as thousands of women are injured each year. Abortion has become the most unregulated industry in the United States because governors, legislators, and attorney generals fail to enforce or write laws that will actually protect women. In addition to a lack of regulation, the ravages of choice continue to take a toll on individual families, states, and the economic stability of the nation. This report seeks to examine this issue in the hopes that Congress consider investigations to explore the physical, legal, cultural, and economic harm abortions has created in our country. Okay, so whew, that was a mouthful, guys. I'm gonna have to take a sip of water probably after every page, but because I'm trying to read it as fast as I can. But guys, make sure you hit that super trap, make sure you hit that Cash App, make sure you hit that PayPal, show some love, because this is not easy to get through all that information. So let's get into it. The abortion consumer. Disproportionately, the leading consumer of the abortionist services is the African American female. According to the 2011 abortion surveillance report issued by the Center of Disease Control, Black women make up 14% of the childbearing population, yet obtain 36.2% of reported abortions. Let me read that again. Black women make up 14% of the childbearing population, yet obtain 36.2% of reported abortions.
I keep telling you, consciousness over coochie, politics over punani.
Okay. Black women have the highest abortion ratio in the country, with 474 abortions per 1,000 live births. So Black women are pretty much aborting 47.4% of they chillin'. And I know I do continue to say, sisters, come get your kids. But this is not what I meant, okay? Percentages at these levels illustrate that more than 19 million Black babies have been aborted since 1973. God damn. Woo. Lord have mercy. According to the departments of public health of every state that reports abortion by ethnicity, Black women disproportionately lead in the numbers. For example, in Mississippi, 79% of abortions are obtained by Black women. In Washington, D.C., more than 60%. In Georgia, 59%, damn near 60%. In Alabama, 58%, damn near 60%. In state after state, similar numbers are found, with Black women aborting at 2, 3, or more times their presence in the population. At every income level, it has nothing to do with poverty. It has everything to do with the culture, bruh. It's the culture, my nigga. Like, it's the culture to just abort your kids, nigga. Like, fuck them responsibilities. Fuck them kids. It's the culture. Okay, at every income level, Black women have higher abortion rates than whites or Hispanics, except for women below the poverty line, where Hispanic women have slightly higher rates than Black women. Okay, the prevalence of abortion facilities within minority communities serves as a major contributor to the rate in which Black women obtain abortions. Accordingly, Black women are 5 times more likely to have an abortion than white women. A recent study released by Protecting Black Life and Outreach of Life Issue Institute concluded that 79% of Planned Parenthood's surgical abortion facilities are strategically located within walking distance of African and or Hispanic communities. So on your way to the corner store, you can get an abortion, basically. This study coincides with historical revelations that eugenicists dating to the mid-1900s argued that the most effective way they could advance their agenda would be to concentrate population control facilities within targeted communities. All right. So look at this pie chart, and it clearly shows you. All right. We're going to blow up this pie chart, and it clearly shows you that Planned Parenthood targets minority neighborhoods. All right. This piece of the pie, I know it looks like a very scrumptious pizza, pepperoni pizza, if I might add. This piece of the pie is what sisters is eating up. This piece of the pie are in higher income areas. So percentage of Planned Parenthood surgical abortion facilities in minority neighborhoods, 79%. Percentage of Planned Parenthood surgical abortion facilities in other neighborhoods, 21%, a measly 21%. Okay. Historically, blacks have been the unwitting victims of a hidden racist agenda of those behind abortion and birth control organizations because they believed they were receiving a new civil right choice. In fact, pro-abortion forces have created messaging that reinforces the notion of abortion as a civil right, as seen in a 2012 meeting of the Congressional Black Caucus and Pro-Choice Caucus. So watch how they are using the quote-unquote civil rights movement to convince black women and justify black women in terminating their own fetuses at a rate of 47% to live births, which is, oh man, it's fucking disgusting. On Capitol Hill, these advocates, I mean, we got a lot of black baby body parts getting sold on the black market. I can tell you that right now. That might be might be why they call it the damn black market, the black organ market, right? Shout out to Acadia for the $4.99 super trap or super sticker. We already know.
Hold on. Hello? Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We outside!
Okay. So on Capitol Hill, these advocates urge their constituents to challenge the pro-life position by accusing them of making the alleged disparity in health care for black women worse. Perhaps unknowingly, these black legislators continually damage their political agenda because abortion is destroying their future constituency. Exactly. These motherfuckers, these motherfuckers are retarded, bro. Our black leaders are literally fucking imbeciles. Their advocacy for continued funding of organizations like Planned Parenthood demeans and eradicates the concept of natural rights and denies the right to life to the most vulnerable of all, the unborn child. Establishing such a cultural norm erodes the natural rights of the elderly and the infirmed. For if the powerful can determine that the unborn child does not have a natural, self-evident right to live, then it is very possible that they can and will determine that certain humans no longer possess those rights as well. All right, the population control nexus is the next paragraph. So there is a widespread perception that women, particularly African-American women, are freely exercising their choice when they enter the doors of the nearest abortion center. And that was actually an argument that some of those sisters in Just Pearly Things podcast was arguing. Well, nobody's forcing them to get abortions. I'm gonna tell you what, like this. I know bitches who got abortions. When you go to that abortion clinic, them hoes are pushing it on you. Yeah, I mean, it's like when you go to Best Buy and you walk right into the damn Best Buy, and then the attendant comes up, "Hey, sir, how would you like to try our new flat screen TV? Would you like to try our new MacBook? Would you like to try our new iPad? Which one do you want?" Yeah, I mean, so them motherfuckers, them clinicians, they're coming to you and they're trying to sell you on that abortion, okay? Because they getting $400 a pop for the abortion, whether you pay for it or not. Your insurance gonna pay for it, or whatever insurance they got. The insurance companies are paying out for these abortions, so they're getting $400 pop, and they might even get a damn commission. You know what I mean? But these clinicians are coming up to you and selling you on that abortion. Well, I mean, can you really afford it? I mean, really, how much do you make a month? Yeah, I mean, so much to the fact that they may even like shit on you. Like, I've seen documentaries of women who go into the abortion clinic and the clinicians are literally pushing it on them. Okay. But I don't think sisters need that much pushing. Honey, I'm ready to get that thing out of me, honey. That bitch heavy. Nothing can be further from the truth. The reality is that black women are being pushed, led from behind into abortion centers by a cadre of elitists who agree with Frederick Osborne, the leading eugenicist of the 20th century, that birth control and abortion are turning out to be great eugenic advances for our time. If they had been advanced for eugenic reasons, it would have retarded or stopped their acceptance. In fact, abortion is steeped in the population control agenda. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg reminded the nation of this in her 2009 New York Times Magazine interview when she said, frankly, I had thought that at the time Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth, and particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of. Who do you God damn. Who do you think this motherfucker was talking about? He said, frankly, I had thought at the time Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth, and particularly growth in populations that we don't want too many of. And she was historically accurate. There was concern about population, and Republican President Richard Nixon was at the center of promoting population control, particularly in the Black community. This is a quote from Richard Nixon. As I told you, we talked about it earlier, that a hell of a lot of people want to control the Negro bastards. I don't know if that's a real quote, but goddamn, that nigga went hard. Here's another one. A majority of people in Colorado voted for abortion. I think a majority of people in Michigan are for abortion. I think in both cases, well, certainly in Michigan, they will vote for abortion because they think that that what's going to be aborted generally are little Black bastards. As I told you, we talked about it earlier, that a hell of a lot of people want to control the Negro bastards. So that was the Nixon quote again. You know what we are talking about, population control. We're talking really in what John Rockefeller really realizes. Look the people in what we call our class control their populations. Sometimes they'll have a family of 6 or even 7 or 8 or 9, but it's an exception. Let's see. This is another one. A lot of Republicans used to support family planning, and Richard Nixon signed that first federal planning program into law. There's a clear pathway to win Black women's support, and it's to listen to the middle of their party instead of the extreme fringe. Shout out to B More 1990 with the $10 super trap. He said, you'd almost think Democrats have a plan to destroy the Black population. When you say, hey, you know, if you ask the Democrats, do you have a plan to destroy the Black population? This is basically what they say.
Oh, say less.
Yeah, I mean, but anyways, these are only a few of the sentiments Nixon expressed in 1972, exposing the genesis of his thinking when he announced the conclusions and recommendations of the 1969 Population Control Commission, headed by John D. Rockefeller. It was in the spirit of these sentiments that Cecil Richards, president of Planned Parenthood Federation of America, invited the Republican Party to return to its family planning roots. Believing Planned Parenthood no longer needed to hide the population control impetus of her organization, Richards stated a lot of Republicans used to support family planning, and Richard Nixon signed the first federal planning program into law. There's a clear pathway to win Black women's support, and it's to listen to the middle of their party instead of the extreme fringe. The family planning mantra, a euphemism for abortion, is no longer buried in the pages of Planned Parenthood tax documents as it was in 2008. Planned Parenthood, believing abortion is so entrenched in the culture that it cannot be removed, now openly exposes what had been hidden: the work controlling the birth rates of those they consider dysgenic. All right. The racist and eugenic roots of the abortion movement. This is getting really interesting. And we have some more stats to read. I'm just going to take a swig real quick. Okay. But in the meantime,
any Black man who is with a woman who's not an African herself is going to have a difficult time getting respect from me. I believe Black men need to be with Black women. The Black family is under attack. Only 1 out of every 4 Black women gets married. The Black woman is last likely to get married. She's the last married, the first divorced. We have what? 2/3 of our children being raised by working class and impoverished single Black female-led house homes. The destruction of a nation begins in the home of its families. And if we want to save Black people, we have to save the Black family. And in order to do that, Black men have to commit themselves to Black women.
Okay. It is no accident that abortion has become so deeply entrenched within the Black community. Margaret Sanger, founder of the American birth control movement, was a leading spokesperson and activist in promotion of controlling the birth rate among blacks and others she considered genetically inferior. An avid supporter of eugenics, Sanger became a formidable force when pushing her Negro project, designed to employ black leaders to promote first birth control and later abortion as viable options for family planning. She favored the Malthusian branch of eugenics, frequently saying the genetic makeup of the poor and minorities, for example, was inferior. Sanger believed it was necessary to reduce the birth rate among the diseased, the sickly, the poverty-stricken, and antisocial classes. That's niggas. Elements unable to provide for themselves and the burden of which we are forced to carry. So shout out to Deluxe 247 with the $20 super trap. He says, good work.
Oh, say less.
Say less, my brother. I'm gonna keep coming to you guys with this fire. All right. Where the hell was I? Pushing her knee. Yeah, okay, cool. Heavily relying on members of the black elite to help craft her message, the Negro Project influenced respected black leaders, enticing them to Sanger's cause. Although leaders such as Marcus Garvey strongly denounced birth control and abortion as detrimental to the survival of the black race, other black leaders and organizations supported Sanger, like W.E.B. Du Bois, Adam Clayton Powell Jr., pastor of the Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem, the National Urban League, Mary McClellan Bethune, founder of the National Council of Negro Women, and J.T. Braun, editor-in-chief of the National Baptist Convention's Sunday School Publishing Board in Nashville, Tennessee. Wow, so we got a whole bunch of cooning over here, okay? A whole bunch of cooning over here. Sanger's organization continues in this vein, persuading those whom blacks trust that Planned Parenthood is for the benefit of the black race. Today, the growing list of cronies of the abortion industry includes Jesse Jackson, who flip-flopped, Al Sharpton, who we already know he's a grifter, almost the entire black congressional caucus. See, and they say black people aren't a monolith. And now their most prized gem, the president of the United States, who has openly resisted any regulation of the most unregulated industry in the nation. Paying black staff members into the six figures Planned Parenthood and other abortion supporters have fanned their advocates across the black community, spouting a deceptive but unified message of the lack of access to quality health care supported by funds provided through such foundations as those headed by the Fords, Rockefellers, Carnegies, Gates, Soros, who now we know the CEO of Planned Parenthood today is the wife of George Soros' former underling, all right, and others pro-abortion forces deliberately craft messages that, and she just so happens to be a sister and a swirler, okay, that play on the fears of some blacks that a lack of access to abortion is somehow discriminatory. Then and now, Sanger's organization has used trusted leaders to convince the black community that abortion as a form of birth control is not only acceptable, but also beneficial to African American culture.
I keep telling you, consciousness over coochie, politics over punani.
All right. Although Sanger has often been acclaimed as a champion for human rights, her philosophy was actually quite racist and bigoted. According to George Grant, author of Grand Illusions, The Legacy of Planned Parenthood, Sanger's philosophy on race, known as scientific racism, discriminates against other ethnicities based on quality of genes. In Sanger's eyes, scientific racism in the case of the black community includes skin color. Grant exposes Sanger's discriminatory notions and documents many inflammatory comments she made during her tenure. Okay. Political ramifications of abortion on the black community and the nation. On March 6, 1857, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Roger B. Taney handed down the court's decision in the landmark case of Dred Scott versus Sanford. In 1846, Dred Scott and his wife, Harriet, had been slaves residing with their masters in free territories for almost 9 years. Being prompted by their friends and local ministers, Dred Scott sued for their freedom. After several years of litigation, the Scotts finally appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. The court's decision stated that the Scots were to remain slaves regardless of their place of residence. However, Chief Justice Taney did not stop there. He further stated that since Dred Scott was not a citizen of the U.S., he could not bring suit into federal courts regardless of the issue. Furthermore, Taney made it clear that slaves were no more than personal property and subsequently had no ability to lay claim on freedom. By 1860, the overall slave population was close to 4 million, or 39% of the overall population of the Confederacy. Slaves in South Carolina, the state with the largest percentage of slaves per capita, outnumbered whites at a rate of almost 3-1, with the greatest percentage in small towns such as Goose Creek, where the slave population was almost 80%. When slavery ended, whites began instituting laws that required blacks to be able to read and write to be eligible to vote, to curtail the possibility of a sudden influx of blacks running for political office. Since almost the entire former slave population had neither skills, blacks were effectively shut out of the political process, preventing them from passing laws more equitable to all races.
But I would say, listen, your wife is white. So we're going to stop the black talk right
All right. So this is what they mean when they're talking about systematic racism. Only now, like what would have been perceived systematic racism back then is now being used as a tool to lull black people to sleep so that the things that look like it's giving you civil rights are actually racist by nature, i.e. abortion. Okay. A legal wall of separation between blacks and whites deemed blacks as inferior, not worthy of even occupying the same space as whites, unless it was in the role of a servant. This dichotomy in the culture continued until the enactment of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Acts of 1965. Eugenicists, however, were unwilling to allow the racial divide in America to be healed. Richard Nixon, John D. Rockefeller, and others pushed to erect a third barrier to keep the races separate. The initiatives, as we know from Nixon's comments, were to remove obstacles to abortions, particularly in communities we don't want too many of, as Justice Ginsburg said. Such a high frequency of abortion within the black community inevitably creates far-reaching consequences, not only on the women who have obtained abortions, they haven't even gotten to the psychological effects of abortion, but also on the entire population. Recent census results revealed one such consequence, stating that African Americans have been surpassed by Hispanics as the largest minority group in the U.S. Okay, Michael Novak, the George F. Jewett scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, had the following to say in regards to the political and social ramifications of abortion on African American society. Since the number of current living blacks in the U.S. is 31 million, the missing 10 million represents an enormous loss for without abortion American blacks community would now number 41 million. It would be 35% larger than it is currently. God damn, that's a lot of niggas. All right. Abortion has swept through the black community, cutting down every fourth member. Woo! Lord, we are heating up. All right. Consider this. If those 10 million children had not been aborted, the voting power of the black community would now be at 16% nationally rather than current 13%. Blacks who cry in desperation for political change must recognize that the majority of the civic leaders support policies which destroy their future consistency or constituency. It is not beyond reason to conclude that today there could be more black senators and representatives in the halls of Congress, had it not been for the abortion platform supported by so many liberal black and white leaders. Today, as a result of an abortion, blacks have prevented themselves from gaining greater political opportunity. So that was all facts, man. That was it really hits home when they are basically saying that the Democrats are aborting their constituency, and they pretty much, the way that I see it is they don't really need us. Okay, they replace us with the Hispanics. All right, they replace us with the Hispanics, so they don't really need our vote like that anymore. And then they got enough white liberals to kind of sway the polls. All right. So let's get into it. We are on the 10th page. And then where does it get to listing the stats? So I would say about 15th page. So we can get into the rest of it. I'll read the rest of it. All right. Natural rights versus court decisions. Since the 17th century emergence of critical thinker John Locke, the debate about natural rights has raged and questions about abound on the government's involvement in protecting life, liberty, and property. In order to avoid the question of government protection for life in the womb, the Supreme Court accepted arguments that the child in utero is not life until it reaches the level of viability, which they say happens sometime after the first trimester. Like slavery, tensions was created in the public square concerning who qualifies for natural rights and the protection it affords. In the 1850s, it was the black slave who sought freedom and equal protection under the law. Today, it is the unborn child. Let me run that back. In the 1850s, it was the black slave who sought freedom and equal protection under the law. Today, it is the unborn child. If the baby in utero is not a human being in the fullest sense of that term, then he or she has no natural rights to life. However, if the opposite is true, then the unborn child is entitled to right to life, and the mother has no more say in the viability than she does in determining the viability of post-birth children. Fact. Ignoring the advent of ultrasound and other medical devices that make it abundantly clear that the baby in utero is life and indeed human. The natural rights of the baby has been an ongoing topic of discussion in the corridors of the Congress and the halls of federal courts. Exactly. See, that is a great point. So you got all these women going, oh, posting their ultrasound pictures on Instagram. Ooh, look at my baby, honey. Ooh, it looked like he gonna have a big old, you know what? Because a lot of these sisters, ooh, honey, it looked like he got a third leg in there. So you go in there for an ultrasound and you're looking at the baby, but it's not a life yet. Oh, okay. All right. The current laws of the land vest in the mother the right to terminate life in the womb. This often creates a relationship conflict between the man and woman, attacking the traditional family model. In fact, the abortion industry has taken great care to promote ideas that clash with traditional family structure and ideology by celebrating a lifestyle that promotes moral decay, promiscuity, and abortion as birth control. The current law does not acknowledge the rights of the child. However, deeming the product of conception is the equivalent to being the property of the mother, and she alone is the arbiter of the child's life or death. William Saunders of the Family Research Council, commenting on Haley Ark's natural rights and the right to choose, had this to say about the parallels between abortion and slavery. In asserting a right to choose, abortion proponents undermine the concept of natural right, for they deny a nature that transcends the preferences of others. Law is thus reduced to power. It secures the right of the powerful to define who has rights, even to define who is human. It can no more be contained than could a right to own slaves. It will seep into areas of care of the elderly, the infirm, and the handicapped. It has already poisoned the policy discussion where the status of the embryo prior to implantation especially is at stake. By reducing rights to a mere reflection of the preferences of the powerful, a right to choose puts all rights, even those claimed by abortion proponents, at risk, because such rights are always subject to redefinition when power shifts. It is ironic that while the Fifth Amendment of 1870 to the U.S. Constitution abolishes discrimination based on race, a more civilized 1973 U.S. Supreme Court discriminated against the life of the unborn child, handing down a decision that stripped the most vulnerable among us of rights, once again allowing the powerful to determine, which these powerful women, to determine exactly who had the right to life. Abortion rights activists understand that from a political standpoint, abortion on demand must not be limited. Rather, for them to muster the greatest amount of political power, they must have a majority of senators and representatives who support their agenda. Attitudes in society and government have certainly evolved since the time of the nation's inception, when a Judeo-Christian belief system was the premise for government and law. The evolution has moved America further and further away from biblically based values toward a culture that accepts behaviors the Bible calls sin. By 1973, a very liberal U.S. Supreme Court wielded its power and forced all states to abolish any restrictions that they might have against abortion in the same way the U.S. Supreme Court allowed the owners of Dred Scott to retain their property in 1857. Cultural changes and opinion often influence the federal court system over time, leading expediency and pragmatism as the order of the day rather than honor and genuine concern for life. This evolution also included movement in the religious community towards a doctrine of moral relativism. The Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice is but one example found by members of old line, mainline Protestant denominations such as Episcopalians and Presbyterians. The RCRC targets African Americans and teenagers in its outreach. Its purpose is to promote the idea that abortion, including partial birth abortion, is not sometimes a tragic necessity, but is a holy work. And the defense of the unlimited abortion license is, according to RCRC, a holy war. Abandoning its calling to be the standard bearer for society, the RCRC teaches young people that abortion is a rite of passage to adulthood, and their parents have no right to interfere with their reproductive choices. Woo! Wow. This is heavy. This is heavy. So, we're going to keep reading, but all in all, I think that these women who are advocating for abortion so hard, they simply belong to the streets.
She belongs to the street.
Okay. As Martin Luther King Jr. stated in Strength to Love, the church must be reminded that it is not the master of the servant of the state, but rather the conscience of the state. It must be the guide and the critic of the state, and never its tool. If the church does not recapture its prophetic zeal, it will become an irrelevant social club without moral or spiritual authority. However, there is hopeful news that Americans are less likely to support abortion rights. In August 2012, a CNN poll asked, do you think abortion should be legal under any circumstances, legal under any, or legal under only certain circumstances, or illegal in all circumstances? Some 62% want abortions illegal in all cases or legal only in certain instances, while just 35% want abortions legal for any reason. I'm sure that has drastically changed. CNN also asked, do you think abortion should be legal in most circumstances or only on a few circumstances? Here, 52% took a pro-life view, saying abortion should be illegal in all 15% or more circumstances. 37%, while just 44% took a pro-abortion view, saying abortion should be legal in all 35% or most 9% circumstances. The cost of abortion and its economic impact. All right. We're almost through. We're halfway through, guys. I know y'all getting bored. Very few think about the cost of abortion other than in the context of the price to get one. Yet the numbers demonstrate there is indeed a price to be paid when the population equivalent to the 73 largest cities from New York all the way down to cities the size of Chandler, Arizona, have been aborted. Movement for a Better America has been sounding the alarm, calculating that abortion drives the greatest healthcare and education crisis in history. As baby boomer nurses and teachers retire, we face a looming shortage of 1 million nurses and 2 million teachers. We also face critical shortages in key professions such as science, medicine, and higher education. Let me clear my throat. No, I'm just kidding. Another consequence of abortion is a disastrous shift in the supply-demand equation that underlies our economy. 55 million abortions represent a huge loss in consumer demand. If those babies had been born, our fast-paced economy would still be going strong. Those we aborted were the future consumers, producers, parents, and taxpayers we needed to keep our economy growing. The abortion boom is also behind the crisis in Social Security and Medicare. In 1940, we had 144 people in the workforce for every person on Social Security. That's when it looked like a great idea. But by 1952, the ratio had dropped to 16 to 1. It is now 3 to 1. God damn. In less than 20 years, it will be only 2-1. That's when the government Ponzi scheme will completely collapse. Woo! So we don't got much time, guys. We don't have much time. Okay. Even before these shortages can be fully realized, the immediate impact of increased sexual activity leading to abortion can be seen when examining sexually transmitted diseases in America. Okay. We know a lot of these sisters are burning. All right. Millions are affected by sexually transmitted illnesses resulting from their own poor choices and actions. That was not me. That was the article, okay, or the research study. In fact, according to the American Social Health Association, more than half of all Americans will contract an STD or STI in their lifetime. There are over 65 million Americans living with an STD or STI, and there are over 19 million new cases each year, only some of which are curable. More than $8 billion is spent each year to diagnose and treat STD and STIs, and this figure does not even include the most dangerous HIV and AIDS. In fact, the Kaiser Family Foundation warns sexually transmitted diseases are at an epidemic proportion. Half of the 10 most frequently reported infections of to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention are STDs, including the most common chlamydia, that clap. However, the scope of the epidemic and its impact is often underestimated by the public and unacknowledged by many healthcare professionals. Besides the cost to diagnose and treat these infections, there are other indirect costs that could be eradicated immediately simply by curbing sexual activity. It is only through sex that these diseases are contracted. Abstinence, while not curing the disease, would ultimately stop their spread among unwed couples. Our economy's 55 million missing people has certainly caused a significant decline in the tax base that will go unanswered, as there are not enough people to support the economic expectations of today's debt-laden America. The horrors of Kermit Gosnell, all right? On March 18, 2013, the trial of abortion monster Dr. Kermit Gosnell began in Philadelphia. 2 months later, Gosnell was convicted on 3 charges of murder, 21 felony counts of performing illegal late-term abortions, and 211 counts of violating the 24-hour informed consent laws. Gosnell's convictions really just reflected the tip of the iceberg of what was going on in his clinic. Until inspectors showed up in February 2010 as a result of an investigation for suspected illegal drug prescription use, Gosnell's facility operated uninspected for 17 years. According to the grand jury report, the last state inspection before the 2010 raid had been in 1993. Wow. Wow. Anecdotes of those who worked there suggest the scope of murder, illegal abortions, abuse of women, mostly low-income minority and immigrant women, went far beyond what could be adequately documented to stand up for the trial. The jury that investigated Kermit Gosnell speculated why he operated so long without getting attention. We think the reason no one acted is because the women in question were poor and of color, because the victims were infants without identities, and because the subject was the political football of abortion. The years that Gosnell committed his atrocities with no regulatory oversight and the challenges to get national media attention to his trial once it began should provoke extra vigilance today to address the issues involved that still are not getting adequate attention and the extent to which similar abuses are occurring elsewhere. Post Gosnell, all right. To ensure a recurrence of Gosnell was not possible, several action steps were taken by Senator Mike Lee, the House Judiciary Committee, and the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Actions taken are listed below. During the Gosnell trial on May 8, 2013, Senator Mike Lee of Utah, a Republican of Utah, as a matter of fact, offered a resolution expressing the sense of the Senate that Congress and the state should investigate and correct abusive, unsanitary, and illegal abortion practices. The House Judiciary Committee sent letters to each Attorney General to determine whether state and local governments are being stymied in their efforts to protect the civil rights of newborns and their mothers by legal or financial obstacles. that are within the federal government's power to address. The House Energy and Commerce Committee sent letters to each state health officer requesting that they provide information on how they regulate and monitor abortion clinics to protect the health and safety of women. Despite the steps taken, the states were largely unresponsive to the calls for action. Accordingly, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, a DC-based Black conservative think tank, organized strategic steps to provide a voice for the voiceless. CURE's response. The National Black Pro-Life Coalition Protecting Black Life and the National Black Pro-Life Union joined with CURE to privately meet with 6 Senate staffers to discuss how to move the ball forward to open the legislative hearings that they requested last year. The meeting focused on adding penalties to the Born Alive Infants Protection Act of 2002. The Born Alive Infants Protection Act was signed into law by President Bush after passing unanimously in the Democrat-controlled Senate. It outlaws the murder of infants born during late-term procedures, what Gosnell was doing. But the law is basically symbolic because it invokes no criminal or civil penalties when violated. CURE and the partner organizations have focused on encouraging federal action in response to women being maimed, molested, and murdered in abortion clinics. As such, the Born Alive Infants Protection Act must be updated to adequately protect against these tragedies. Updated language should include protection of whistleblowers, civil penalties for failure to uphold the law, and open hearings to determine whether the Black community is being targeted by abortion facilities. Below, you will find testimonies about the limited public response received in regards to proof of medical negligence by the coalition's members involved in this project. So, guys, we're going to read some of these testimonies. They are pretty jarring, so hold on. All right, so we have Catherine Davis, co-founder of the National Black Pro-Life Coalition, post-Gosnell testimonial. Arnold Colbreth, founder, CEO of Breath of Life LLC, a Breath of Life Foundation LLC, post-Gosnell testimony. Black women and abortion. Abortion is the leading cause of death for African Americans, more than all other causes combined, including AIDS, violent crimes, accidents, cancer, and heart disease. So these hoes are beating the super gremlins. In 2008, Black women had abortion at a rate 3.4 times higher than the white women. In 2008, Black women received 30% of the abortions, even though African Americans are only 12.6% of the population. Over the lifetime, Black women average 1.6 more pregnancies than white women, but are 5 times more likely to have a pregnancy that ends in abortion. More than 16 million Black babies have died by abortion since 1973. Approximately 360,000 preborn Black babies are aborted every year, nearly 1,000 per day. God damn. These sisters fucking, man. Planned Parenthood has historically targeted African Americans for abortion. Sanger's Negro Project in 1939 was intended to stop the growth of the Black community. Sanger persuaded Black pastors to push her population control program within their congregations. Black pro-life leaders have long insisted that Planned Parenthood purposely places its abortion facilities in on near Black neighborhoods. Life Issues Institute's 2005 study of Census 2000 data confirmed that 60% of Planned Parenthood surgical abortion facilities were located in close proximity to the Black neighborhoods, and 78% were near Black and Hispanic or Latino neighborhoods. Does Planned Parenthood still target minorities for abortion? New research from Protecting Black Life and outreach of Life Issue Institute uses Census 2010 data to reveal that this targeting still exists. 62% of Planned Parenthood surgical abortion facilities are within walking distance, 2 miles, or of relatively high Black populations. 79% of Planned Parenthood surgical abortion facilities are within walking distance, 2 miles, of relatively high Black and or Hispanic Latino populations. Dr. Day Gardner, founder of the National Black Pro-Life Union, post-Gosnell testimonials. Let's get into it. On January 9, 2011, Black abortionist Kermit Gosnell owner and operator of the West Philadelphia Women's Medical Society abortion clinic, was charged with 8 counts of murder for killing a 41-year-old mother and 7 newborn babies. God damn. Unfortunately, unless you lived in Philadelphia, very little was heard about these heinous crimes. Yes, and these heinous crimes are still happening in Philadelphia, and there's little being heard about it. You can only find those stories on Black Gen Z Mindset, aka BGZM News 17. For more than 30 years, Kermit Gosnell ran a bloody abortion clinic in a black neighborhood where he made millions of dollars killing black children. And this is a black man. Gosnell perpetrated the epidemic of black on black crime, which is a national problem that has become increasingly more pronounced over the years. So this is real self-hate, guys. This is the real self-hate. All right. And we have, Lord have mercy, we've got a very this is a scary sight. So you know how we got the Free My Nigga campaign? Well, Hillary Clinton actually jumped on the campaign, and she is repping a free Kermit Gosnell t-shirt. Oh my God. She said, "Free my nigga," with hot sauce in her purse. You ain't black if you ain't saying "Free my nigga Kermit." And no, I ain't talking about the damn frog. Okay? So we have Hillary Clinton supporting this nigga. Yeah, it's OV. So I'm just gonna give you guys a better picture of Kermit Gosnell. He's actually pretty light-skinned. Okay. So let me, oh, they trying to sell me on this subscription. Hold on, let me get a good picture of this nigga. Let's see. That's a decent picture, but I think this one's better. Lie. So we got Hillary Clinton repping Kermit Gosnell. This shit, you can't make this shit up, bruh. You cannot make this shit up. So here's Kermit Gosnell. They are saying he's America's biggest serial killer. And it makes it even worse because he was killing babies. Okay. So that's him right there. If you guys want to go and do some more research on the atrocities that Kermit Gosnell committed, I did do some brief research on this before because I read this article before I even came on stream, because I just wanted to make sure that I had all, or this study before I came on stream. So I did look into Kermit Gosnell, and he was a fucking menace. More bodies than your average super gremlin. All right. So for more than 30 years, Kermit Gosnell ran a bloody abortion. Okay, so we read that. A year ago, New Jersey Reverend Clinner Childress and I had a press conference in Philadelphia to call out the media for their refusal to cover the trial. We then stood shoulder to shoulder in a coalition organized by Star Parker and Cure to call immediate attention to the travesty of child killings in Philadelphia, which is continuing to happen, only via Super Gremlin. All right. Last year, I cringed and gnashed my teeth while sitting in the almost empty Philadelphia courtroom, hearing testimony after testimony of babies screaming and screaming while being killed by Gosnell and his employees. So, guys, when it comes to black issues that actually negatively affect the black community, black people are nowhere to be found. We just don't give a fuck. Okay. I heard gruesome testimony by abortion clinic workers about how Gosnell would deliver fully developed, viable children and then turn them over to cut their spinal cords. Wow. My nigga did the goddamn what's that that Mortal Kombat nigga who go in your heart, boom, pull out your spine, and then you're like, ah, you know what I mean? This nigga is committing fatalities out this bitch. Gosnell even joked that one baby was big enough to walk to the bus stop. He then cut that little boy's neck and tossed him into a shoebox. God damn. Talk about shoebox money. I mean, what is this nigga selling the head for? What is he selling? Oh, Scorpion. Yeah, shout out to Hope Flyers. Shout out to Hope Flyers with the Mortal Kombat reference. That motherfucker will pull your goddamn spine out, man. That used to, boy, how you be playing that arcade? I used to be scared as fuck to fight Scorpion. That shit was scary. But yeah, talk about money in the shoebox, my nigga. It was no big deal to him to kill these children, to slash their necks as they struggled, as they strained, as they cried. If that wasn't grotesque enough, he severed off the tiny feet of several babies and kept them displayed in jars on a shelf as a sort of souvenir. Gosnell stored the bodies of children in milk jugs, in large soft drink containers, and juice bottles. 47 babies were found frozen in a refrigerator freezer. God damn. And Hillary Clinton said, free my nigga. Okay. They had to be thawed out like TV dinners so that the coroner could determine their first and last moments of life. Employee Linda Williams actually played with a baby who survived a botched abortion for several minutes, and then she snipped the child's neck. Wow. These hoes are heartless. Sherry West, a former employee, testified at Gosnell's trial last April, stating that she witnessed the baby screaming lying on a shelf after having been delivered during an abortion procedure at Gosnell's abortion clinic. In her testimony, she described the baby as being 18 to 24 inches long and one of the largest babies she had been delivered there. Her words pierced my heart as I recalled how happy I was when my son Lawson was born at 19 inches long. I heard Elizabeth Hampton, Gosnell's sister-in-law, who also worked at the abortion clinic, cry on the witness stand, stating many times that she hated the thought of being jailed. After all, she was only hired to clean the place. I found it maddening that Elizabeth Hampton didn't cry for the babies who were murdered on a daily basis in that house of horrors. She didn't cry for the women that she held down when they writhed in pain during an abortion procedure. She didn't cry for the women injured there. She cried only for herself. I told you these hoes are selfish. I told you these hoes are selfish. Okay, let's see what Elizabeth Hampton, and then these Supergirls is just fucking, these niggas just murderers at this point. Imagine if this was a white man doing this. Imagine if it was a white man doing this to black babies. Okay, so I'm just trying to see what Elizabeth Hampton or Hampton looks like. All right. Let's see if I can find this bitch. Yeah, so here is Elizabeth Hampton. Fair warning, this bitch looks like a fucking train wreck. All right. All right, so let's get rid of that. So here she is. Shorty is looking busted and disgusted. So yeah, she got to get this smoke too. All right, she got to get this smoke too. Okay. All right, so where were we? There in the courtroom, among the blood-stained chairs and blood-encrusted procedure tables, was also a garbage disposal. Oh, God. Don't tell me they put these babies in the garbage disposal. Whew. Elizabeth Hampton described her job as a cleaning lady, how she would clean out the suction machine by dumping its contents, which included blood and body parts collected from the suction machine, into the sink. Obviously, she would then run the disposal. Wow. Other workers talked about babies delivered into toilets. One baby used swimming-like motions before being scooped out and killed. And these women are advocating for late-term abortions. So this shows you how evil they are. Elizabeth Hampton's common-law husband, Jimmy Johnson, took the stand. He worked at the clinic as the plumber and maintenance man. He said that toilets got stopped on a regular basis. Wow, this is fucking disgusting. He testified that on several occasions, he had to go outside of the house to clean out the trap, which was clogged up by baby arms, legs, little hands and feet, and other shriveled up body parts. Shit. Oh my God. This is...
I don't give a fuck about the line. We lost.
Yeah, my nigga, we lost, bro. We lost. I'm pretty thick-skinned, tough cookie, but the thought of shredded, flushed children was unbearable. I remember thinking, is this America, the beautiful? On May 13, 2013, Kermit Gosnell was sentenced to serve life in prison without parole, convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder for killing newborn babies in his abortion clinic by cutting their spinal cords with scissors. He was also charged with involuntary manslaughter for the 2009 death of Karnamaya Monger, a Nepalese refugee who lived in Virginia with her family. Here's the thing. Gosnell is not an anomaly. Every day, children of every race are being sliced and diced, killed in the most grotesque ways imaginable. We must face the fact that thousands and thousands of children are slaughtered in a bloodbath by the hands of Gosnell-like abortionists. Every day, hundreds of thousands of babies are butchered each and every year. By the grace of God, we must not forget. We must do all we can to end the killing. So, as you guys see, this shit is getting out of hand, all right? And this is what these women are protesting for. This is what they're asking for. They're begging for the right to do. As you guys can see, Kermit Gosnell has taken the throne in one of the most prolific serial killers in history. And it's even more gruesome that he's killing children who literally are just born. This motherfucker is a sicko, dog. This motherfucker is a sicko. Okay? And it just goes to show how evil this abortion agenda is. And Hillary Clinton obviously said, free my nigga. Okay? So here, at the end, they have a call to action. We're not going to read that. That was very, it was very information packed, man. And we've got more, guys. We've got more. We got more. All right. So we're going to get into some old school shit. We're going to get into some old school shit. But before that, guys, make sure you like the video. Make sure you share the video. Make sure you hit that Super Chat, PayPal, Cash App if you feel so inclined, if you like the information that's coming. We are going to take a brief intermission, guys. I appreciate you guys for sticking with me through this stream. We're 2 hours and 30 minutes in, and I still have a lot more information to do. I don't know if I'm going to get into all of it, but I hope that I will be able to with you guys' support. So, I really appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. This is actually very difficult for me to read, contrary to popular belief. It's not a lot that gets to me, man, but this shit got my voice cracking and got me wanting to tear up. I'm not going to lie. Because to imagine that this nigga was so sick and killing so many babies, he probably killed more than what they charged him with, and he's got life in prison. Probably killed more than what they charged him with. And then you got Hillary Clinton out here talking about some free my nigga. These super gremlins are on demon time.
I keep telling you, consciousness over coochie. Politics over punani.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Medgar Evers, and it's a very tranquil scene compared to just a couple hours ago where a drive-by shooting just took place. Excuse me, I'm getting live updates as we speak. I've just been updated to the amount of casualties from this drive-by shooting, and I'm getting reports that 2 people were actually declared deceased and 27 others were shot and injured but are in stable condition. And although we must pray for the families of the fallen, we must also praise God for the aim of the super gremlin. If you want to know more about the victims of this crime, make sure you add BGZM News 17 on Patreon at www.patreon.com/blackgenzmindset. Also, don't forget to like the video, share the video,
subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment on the video to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this gun violence in the streets. For more hard-hitting news coverage from the community, by the community, I'm Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
And cut.
All right, dog. Let's get the out of here before these niggas come back.
Whoa. Yo. Ain't that nigga Jay?
Nah, that ain't me. That ain't me.
He just went live.
That ain't
with
me.
Funky ass suit
That's
on.
that nigga. That's not me.
Hey, get that nigga.
Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia. Pray for me.
All right, guys. So, I wanted to read that paper because that research paper, because if you think Kermit Gosnell is the only motherfucker out here who's doing this type of shit, you got a whole nother thing coming. So now let's get into this article written by the ACLU, which, we could take a lot of shit with a grain of salt. But this is the ACLU. Okay. This is them advocating for abortion, basically. All right. Which is kind of crazy. All right. And it was written by a woman named Michelle Goodwin. And she is a bald-headed sister. I will just show you guys who she is to give you guys a reference on the type of sisters that are advocating for this shit. So here is Michelle Goodwin. She obviously has her pronouns. She is a chancellor's professor of law, University of California in Irvine. So obviously an educated, strong, educated sister who went through the big chop and cut all her hair off and, now looks like a man. But these are who we're supposed to cuff. Women who write articles advocating for abortion after we just read the gruesome realities of what abortion really is about. Okay. So in 1851, Sojourner Truth delivered a speech best known as "Ain't I a Woman?" to a crowded audience at the Women's Convention in Akron, Ohio. At the time, slavery remained in full force, a vibrant enterprise that fueled the American economy. Various laws protected that system, including the Fugitive Slave Act, which resulted in the abduction of free Black children, women, and men, as well as those who had miraculously escaped to northern cities like Boston or Philadelphia. Bounty hunters then sold their prey to southern plantation owners. The law denied basic protections for Black people caught in the greed-filled grasp of slavery. Miss Truth condemned this disgraceful enterprise, which thrived off not only uncompensated labor, but also physical and psychological terror. Most will remember Miss Truth's oration for its vivid description regarding physical labor. Black women were forced to plow, plant, herd, and build just as men, yet far too little attention centers on her condemnation of the system, which made sexual chattel of Black women and the cruelty, cruelty she meant, or the cruelly sold off Black children. This was human trafficking in the American form, and it lasted for centuries, Miss Truth pleaded. I have borne 13 children and seen most all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me, and ain't I a woman? Following the Supreme Court decision in June, Medical Services versus Russo, this week it is worth reflecting on the racist origins of the anti-abortion movement in the United States, which dated back to the ideology of slavery. Okay, so here she's going to make a comparison to anti-abortion movement, aka pro-life movement, to slavery. So this should be interesting. This rationalization of this sister who is advocating to continue to commit the genocide that is depleting the population of Black people, not only Black women, but Black men alike. Okay, just like slavery, anti-abortion efforts are rooted in white supremacy. The exploitation of Black women and placing women's bodies in service to men. What? So we're in 2022, and this article was written in 2020. Bitch, y'all been independent. Like, what the fuck is she talking about? In service to men? Like, most of these niggas, y'all fucking don't even want the kids. Okay? Most of these niggas, y'all fucking don't even want the kids. Just like slavery, maximizing wealth and consolidating power motivated the anti-abortion enterprise. Then, just as now, anti-abortion efforts have nothing to do with saving women's lives or protecting the interests of children. Today, a person is 14 times more likely to die by carrying a pregnancy to term than by having an abortion. And medical evidence has shown for decades that an abortion is as safe as penicillin shot. And yet, abortion remains heavily restricted in states across the country. Tell that to the patients of our good old friend Kermit Gosnell. Okay. Prior to the Civil War, abortion and contraceptives were legal. And guys, put a 1 in the chat if you want me to do a separate video on Kermit Gosnell and everything that he was up to. Put a 1 in the chat. I might go fish for those court documents and see exactly the atrocities that he had committed. So put a 1 in the chat if you want a separate live stream on Kermit Gosnell. Okay. Prior to the Civil War, abortion and contraceptives were legal in the U.S., used by indigenous women as well as those who sailed to these lands from Europe. For the most part, the persons who performed all manner of reproductive health care were women, female midwives. Midwifery was interracial. Half of the women who provided reproductive health care were Black women. Other midwives were indigenous and white. So she's saying Black women have a history of performing abortions. However, in the wake of slavery's end, skilled Black midwives represented both real competition for white men who sought to enter the practice of child delivery and a threat to how obstetricians viewed themselves. Male gynecologists claimed midwifery was a degrading means of obstetrical care. They viewed themselves as elite members of trained professions with tools such as forceps and other technologies and the modern conveniences of hospitals, which excluded Black and indigenous women from practice within their institutions. History would later reveal that it was literally on the backs of Black women's bodies that such tools were developed. Dr. Marion Sims famously wrote about the insomniac-induced epiphanies that stirred him to experiment on enslaved Black women, lacerating, suturing, and cutting, providing no anesthesia or pain relief. Only recently have the terrors that Black women endured through non-consensual experimentation by gynecologists of the 19th and 20th century been acknowledged. So that's definitely a real thing, definitely a real concern, historical fact. So I can't argue with that. We got a lot of 1s in the track. I mean, in the chat. Been on stream for 2 hours and 45 minutes. I'm losing my mind. Successful racist and misogynistic smear campaigns, cleverly designed for political persuasion and to achieve legal reform, describe Black midwives as unhygienic, barbarous, ineffective, non-scientific, dangerous, and unprofessional. Well, I mean, a lot of these hoes do practice witchcraft. Dr. Joseph D. Lee, prominent 20th century obstetrician and fervent opponent to midwifery, stated in much quoted 1915 speech, Progress Toward Ideal Obstetrics. The midwife is a relic of barbarism. In civilized countries, the midwife is wrong, has always been wrong. The midwife has been a drag on the progress of the science and art of obstetrics. Her existence stunts the one and degrades the other. For many centuries, she perverted obstetrics from perverted obstetrics from obtaining any standing at all among the science of medicine. Even after midwifery was practiced by some of the most brilliant men in the profession, such practice was held opprobrious and degraded. At the root of these stereotypes were explicit efforts to destroy midwifery and promote white supremacy at the surge of lynchings, separate but equal laws, police violence, and how did they bring fucking police violence into this? And the dissemination of successful Black communities during Jim Crow revealed Black Americans post-slavery suffered greatly due to white supremacy, as did Chinese and Japanese workers and their families. Indeed, the racist campaigns launched by doctors against Black midwives extended to anti-immigration legislation, platforms targeted at Chinese and Japanese workers. The Page Act, which restricted Chinese women from entering the United States, is part of the shameful legacy. This broader 20th century anti-Chinese campaign became known as Yellow Peril. DeLee and Horatio Storer urged white women to spread their loins across the nation, a dog whistle about the threat of too many blacks and Asians in the U.S. Gynecologists explicitly revealed their motivations in undermining midwifery. They desired financial gains, recognition, and a monopoly. As Dr. DeLee wrote in 1916 article published in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Disease of Women and Children, there is high art in obstetrics, and that it must pay as well for it as for surgery. I will not admit that this is a sordid impulse. It is only common justice to labor, self-sacrifice, and skill. They believe that men should be paid, but not women, particularly not black women. To better understand racial injustice in the abortion movement, remember that American hospitals barred the administration of African Americans, both in terms of practice and patients. And the American Medical Association, AMA, barred women and black people from membership. The AMA founded in 1847, refused to admit black doctors, informing them, you come from groups and schools that admit women and that admit irregular practitioners. For this reason, black doctors formed the National Medical Association in 1895. In 2008, the organization issued a public apology for its active campaigns to close black medical schools, deny black membership, and other efforts to marginalize black patients and practitioners. Gynecologists push women out of the field of reproductive health by lobbying state legislators to ban midwifery and prohibit abortions. Doing so not only undercut women's reproductive health, but also drove qualified black women out of medical services. For these groups, there were no meaningful path to the formalized skill set DeLee claimed necessary. Abortion was an expedient way to frame their campaign to create monopolies on women's bodies for male doctors. The American Medical Association explicitly contributed to the cause through its exclusion of women and black people. So it wasn't just women. I mean, it wasn't just black people who were excluded. It was women as well. Okay, so it was Asian people. It wasn't just a black thing. All right, so this is what you guys got to understand. Today, as people debate and women started, gaining their rights in the early 1900s. So, society had to progress. And I'm not saying that, it's right that they discriminated against anybody. But the fact that she's basically advocating for women, black women, to have the right to perform abortions. Today, as people debate whether anti-abortion platforms benefit black women, the clear answer is no. Very interesting. We just read a report that would say otherwise. The U.S. leads the developed world in maternal and infant mortality. The U.S. ranks around 50th in the world for maternal safety. Nationally, for black women, the maternal death rate is nearly 4 times that of white women and 10 to 17 times worse in some states. In the wake, and that could be contributed to their health complications as well, okay? It may not just be, they treat black women different in the hospitals. That may not be it, man. There's a lot of health complications going on that are not being reported in this way. So in the wake of both Whole Woman's Health and June Medical Services versus Russo, keep in mind that both Texas and Louisiana, where these cases originated, are considered the deadliest in the developed world for a woman to give birth. Sadly, pregnancy has become a death sentence for many in the very places that make reproductive health care access the most fraught and hard to reach. Many of these states, though not all, are former slave states such as Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas. As black people in these states continue to fight for equal access, the reproductive care they need, Sojourner Truth's 1851 speech continues to resonate. And as the Supreme Court demonstrated this week, the fight for justice and reproductive health care and equality and abortion access is far from over. The decision does not advance the equality of poor black women. It maintains all of the burdensome restrictions already in place. We have much more work to do. That not only DeLee's words, but also the racist and exploitative viewpoints are relegated to history. Okay, so this is what the bald-headed sisters are advocating for. All right. So I did want to get both sides of the story. We have all right, so we have some information on abortions, and then we're gonna get into some of the writings of Margaret Sanger. I just want to make sure that okay, let's see. So Planned Parenthood is obviously doing some damage control. And I just want to make sure I get that all ready for you guys. So we're about to get into it. All right, guys. Woo! So we got a lot of shit to get into. Let me just see this document that I have right here. Okay, so this is just a list of works from Margaret Sanger. So what I will do here, guys, if you want to go if you want to go check out some more of Margaret Sanger's works, you can go check that out here. What we are going to be focused on is her her speech called Birth Control and Racial Betterment. And let's see. So we got that one, and then there's another one that I wanted to get into. But that one's pretty good. That one's a pretty good one. The Birth Control and Racial Betterment. But guys, if you want to get more information on the works of Margaret Sanger and other eugenicists, this document kind of shows you it's a register of her papers in the Library of Congress. So this is pretty much all her work. So if you guys want to go and check that out, let's see. I'm trying to find. So she had diaries, obviously. She had calendars and all this shit. I was actually trying to find one more speech that she wrote, but maybe my memory will be jarred when I read this this here breakdown. So here we go. Sorry guys, I keep clearing my throat. I've been talking for a long ass time. All right. So here we go. Margaret Sanger does not deserve a place in Women's History Month. All right. So March 1st marked the start of Women's History Month. As a feminist, I keep two ideals, and this is written by a feminist, Caitlin Kesda. It sounds like she is. Okay, so let's see what Caitlin Kesda. I ain't gonna lie, she's slick, looking like a snack. She's slick, looking like a sniggity snack, boy. Let's zoom into. Let's see what Shorty got going on. So she's a cute girl. Let me show you guys what she looking like. Hold on. Come on, Caitlin. Can we get a damn picture? All right. So let's see. Let me show y'all guys what Caitlin working with now. All right. So here she goes. Looks like she is an Indian, maybe Hispanic. I don't know. The quesada, or what is it? Quesada is throwing me off. So maybe Hispanic. But yeah, she's straight. She's actually pretty straight. So this is her article. Very insightful young lady. So let's get into it. March 1st marked the start of Women's History Month. As a feminist, I keep two ideals close to my heart: a woman's right to choose and the necessity of gender equality. I will always defend a woman's right to have an abortion, and I will always support making reproductive health care affordable for everyone. Okay, so she's obviously pro-choice. Nothing will ever change my mind on these things, but something I will never again support or celebrate is the life of Margaret Sanger, one of the founders of Planned Parenthood. Sanger receives mixed partisan reviews. Her opposers consider her a baby killer, while her supporters praise her for eliminating the taboo on birth control and kickstarting a revolution that resulted in women finally having a say over their bodies. While I believe that resorting to name calling is unnecessary, I also firmly believe that nobody, regardless of what your views on abortion are, should celebrate this woman. This is because Sanger was an outspoken eugenicist, a fact which a shocking amount of people are not aware of. Aside from supporting eugenics, Sanger was openly racist, ableist, and used her rhetoric to decide who was fit or unfit to have children. Everything she stood for is fundamentally opposed to feminism. While on the surface, it appears that Sanger fought hard for women's rights and equality, a deep dive into some of her personal narratives reveals shocking truths that demonstrate otherwise. In her infamous essay titled "A Better Race Through Birth Control," so I think that's the one that I was looking for. Okay, so it's actually called "Birth Control and Racial Betterment," which I have that document queued up for you. I'm looking for the other one. The other one is called "My Way to Peace." So she emphasized the importance of birth control used to improve the quality of humanity, thereby justifying her views on eugenics. In this article, she went on to say, it is reasonable to assume that women of subnormal mentality, however lacking they may be in vision and altruism, would prefer to avoid the pain and responsibilities of procreation. If the satisfaction of sex could be divorced from reproduction, given birth control, the unfit will voluntarily eliminate their kid. In a 1932 article titled "My Way to Peace," Sanger discussed her 7 criteria for what she deemed a perfect society. These ideas were centered around increasing their intelligence of the American population. She referred to immigrants as people who are detrimental to the stamina of the race, adding that they must be kept out of society. She went on to say that most of these people were feeble-minded idiots, morons, insane, syphilitic, epileptic, criminal, and professional prostitutes. So she's basically saying the immigrants got the hose, y'all. Other heavily emphasized ideas in her essay included enacting rigid policies of sterilization and segregation so that questionable traits would not be transmitted to offspring, as well as confining the unfit to separate homesteads and farms where they would spend the rest of their lives if they choose to not be sterilized. So what does that sound like? Quarantine. What does that sound? You know what I mean? Her final proposition was to force the remaining 15 or 20 million people of the unfit population into soldiers or the military to, in her words, defend the unborn against their own disabilities. Wow. Sanger's awful views don't end there. After attending a KKK rally in Silver Lake, New Jersey in 1926, she recounted the experience in her autobiography. I accepted an invitation to talk to the women's branch of the Ku Klux Klan. I was escorted to the platform, was introduced and began to speak. In the end, through simple illustrations, I believed I had accomplished my purpose. A dozen invitations to speak to similar groups were proffered. One can wonder, what on earth did she say to invoke such positive reaction from such a hateful group of people? Okay. In 1939, Sanger launched an initiative called the Negro Project with the intention of introducing birth control to impoverished Black communities in the South and conducting research. Physician Clarence Gamble, who shares similar eugenics views to Sanger, overlooked most of these projects. Some argued that these birth control projects were designed to show the contraceptive clinics could be successfully implemented throughout the United States. Shortly after the launch of the Negro Project, which people say, oh, that's not true. That never happened. It never happened. It's not true. That you're making things up. You're a conspiracy theorist. So, well, it actually happened. Sanger started a campaign with Mary Woodward Reinhardt to educate African-American women in the South about contraception. Sanger, Reinhardt, and Sanger's secretary, Florence Rose, then drafted an essay titled Birth Control and the Negro, sneakily using language that invoked positive reactions from eugenicists and social progressives alike. According to the report, African Americans presented the great problem of the South, as they were the group with the greatest economic, health, and social problems. The authors went on to label African Americans as largely illiterate and a population that still breeds carelessly and disastrously. And unfortunately, we still do that to this day. Okay, so she wasn't entirely wrong about that. In a letter to Gamble in 1939, Sanger wrote, "We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members." This passage has brought Sanger immense backlash, with realizations that all of this work she had been doing in the South may have been to eliminate or reduce America's Black population. Civil rights activist Angela Davis included Sanger's incriminating quote in her infamous novel, Women, Race, and Class. As she emphasized that Sanger's projects confirmed the ideological victory of the racism associated with eugenic ideas. Sanger's legacy was enough for a Planned Parenthood branch to remove her name from one of the Manhattan clinics. In a statement, Senior Vice President of Communications and Culture for Planned Parenthood Federation of America briefly said, "Planned Parenthood, like many other organizations that have existed for a century or more, is reckoning with our history and working to address historical inequities to better serve patients and our mission." So they basically spoke around the shit. They basically didn't address it head on. But they removed her, I guess, a statue or memorial. What was it? Yeah, they removed her name from the clinics. The Manhattan branch, acknowledging the disturbing values Planned Parenthood was built on, is a step in the right direction, but additional work must be done to hold the organization fully accountable. Many are still unaware of the horrendous values Margaret Sanger espoused, and as a result, people really need to dig for the truth. Planned Parenthood may no longer have eugenicism and racism as part of its mission, which we totally debunked. But knowing the history and the origins of the organization is extremely important for educating oneself about how prominent racism and eugenics were in the United States. Margaret Sanger is not a queen nor an icon, like I have been seeing so many people call her. She is a racist eugenicist who grafted her hatred onto the lives of hundreds of thousands of unsuspecting people. She should never, under any circumstances, be praised or celebrated. So this is obviously an opinion column, but it was well stated, in my opinion. There was one more. Okay, there was one more document that I was looking for, and then I'm gonna read this other expose on Margaret Sanger, and then we're gonna get to her actual writings. So it's kind of hard to find this PDF. So yeah, they're. Let's see. I'm really trying to find it, but they got a lot of it. A lot of it is kind of weird the way that they're. Let me see. Peace. Yeah. Speech at the New History. So yeah, it's kind of hard to find this "My Way to Peace" speech, which hopefully I can find it. Find My Way to Peace. All right, speech. Margaret Sanger. Okay, yeah. So I'm having a little difficulty finding this "My Way to Peace" thing, PDF. So I really want to find that. I really want to find that. Jesus, where can I find this shit? Let's see. Do we got a picture? Plan for Peace by Margaret Sanger. I think. Okay, so we got 2 pages. All right, guys, I found it. So nice. We have found it. Woo! So, guys, make sure you like the video. Make sure you share the video. I am going to actually put up a poll really quick because I know we haven't done a poll. We got 69 people in the building. We've got 69 people in the building, man. I appreciate everybody for I appreciate everybody for staying with me through this very long live stream. This reading intensive live stream. I know you guys are probably getting tired of my voice, but I'm going to put up a poll. All right. And the question is going to be, are you pro-life or pro-choice? All right, just simple. All right. So pro-life except for extreme cases. Pro-choice by any means necessary. All right, guys. So make sure you go and vote on the poll. I definitely want to see what you guys think of this, but we are going to read this other hit piece on Margaret Sanger. Then we're going to get into some of her actual works. Then I'm going to get into the damage control that the CDC has done, and then we're going to wrap it up there. So before I get into that, I just want to give you guys a brief reminder.
I keep telling you, consciousness over coochie, politics over punani.
All right, so let's get into it. Margaret Sanger lived from 1879 to 1966, was one of the most influential American women of the 20th century. As a progressive and eugenicist, she believed that some humans were by nature inferior to others. Sanger was primarily driven to provide women complete control over their reproductive life and to make it impossible for the unfit to have children. Sanger wanted to create a master race. To achieve her ends, she sought to legalize and spread contraceptives and sterilizations. Sanger was not a fan of abortion. She wanted it legal, and her work paved the way. I think he meant she was a fan. Her work paved the way for the modern abortion industry. In 1921, she established the American Birth Control League, later to be named Planned Parenthood. Shout out to Sigmund Fraud with the $5 super trap. He said, "You still there? Or you still here, young blood? I guess this counts as another live." That's
say like
yeah, I'm still here. We still cooking on Shorty. All right. So let's see. All right. Eugenics, according to online Merriam-Webster dictionary, is a practice of advocacy of controlled selective breeding of human populations as by sterilization to improve the population's genetic composition. Margaret Sanger believed in eugenics. Sanger wrote at the top of her birth control magazine publication, "More children from the fit and less from the unfit. That is the chief aim of birth control." In a New York Times interview in 1922, she stated, "Superman is the aim of birth control." God damn. So these bitches been wanting Superman since day one. Okay, they've been wanting a superhero nigga since day one. So the high expectations and high standards of what these women want in a man have been there since the beginning of time. Okay. Shout out to Joseph for the $5 PayPal. I just got the PayPal. Appreciate you, brother. Okay. All right. In her book, The Pivot of Civilization, Sanger wrote, "Every feeble-minded girl or woman of the hereditary type, especially of the moron class, should be segregated during the reproductive period." Sanger supported infanticide of disabled babies and wanted the legalization of abortion to achieve her eugenic goals. So maybe I will also try and find The Pivot of Civilization, and I'll read that to you guys. Pivot of Civilization PDF. All right. So let's see. The Pivot of Civilization. Oh Lord, chapter 1. God damn. God damn. All right, so it's very long. I don't think I'll be able to get to this, but very, very interesting. Very interesting, very interesting. So if you guys want to check it out on your own, look up the Pivot of Civilization by Margaret Sanger. Maybe we will just read through one of these chapters. Okay, maybe we'll read through one of these chapters. But you heard what she said. Was Sanger a racist, and did she want the elimination of ethnic minorities in America because of their race? That is a hard answer, but there is no doubt she believes she was able to decide who lived and who should not. Writing in 1931, My Way to Peace, Sanger states she wants the government to keep the doors of immigration closed to the entrance of certain aliens whose condition is known to be detrimental to the stamina of the race. Such a feeble-minded idiots, morons, insane, syphilitic, epileptic, criminal, professional prostitutes, and others in this class. So, I mean, if she didn't want professional prostitutes, she would definitely, have some gripes with the OnlyFans culture that is created by the third wave feminism. So, shout out to Cap Dread 2013 with the $5 super trap. He said, "Keep bringing us the truth."
Oh, say less.
You already know, brother. I got you. All right. So yeah, I think. Okay, so we got through that. For Sanger, birth control was the primary method to promote a superior race, although she also wrote in favor of legalizing abortion. During the first half of her lifetime, birth control was illegal in the United States of America. Sanger worked to change society about contraception. In 1921, she formed the American Birth Control League to promote contraception. In 1929, she formed lobby group to push legislators to make contraception legal. In a 1936 court case, Sanger challenged and won the right for physicians to obtain contraceptives. The next year, the American Medical Association adopted contraception as a normal medical service. The majority of Americans in the early 1900s believed that God should be in charge of determining when life begins, and that people should not use artificial means to influence pregnancy. Every major Christian religion opposed artificial contraception until 1930, when the Anglican Church approved it for married couples. Shortly after, other Protestant Christian churches approved it. The Roman Catholic Church still teaches that artificial contraception is inherently evil, and this article is obviously a little old because the Pope has turned on that. And he wrote this in 2021, but the Pope actually said that use birth control. Let me see. So Pope Francis actually said use birth control. All right. So let's see. And he said this in 2008. Or 2018. My bad. Let's see. Let's see what he actually said. Okay, so they say, noting that the virus may be linked to birth defects when transmitted from a pregnant woman to her unborn baby, the reporter asked the Holy Father about proposals involving abortion or else avoiding pregnancy in areas where Zika virus is prevalent. So remember the Zika virus that went on and they were promoting that, like saying that, oh, it's going to be the next new wave and all this kind of shit, right? The Zika virus, remember that? The Pope responded by emphatically stating that abortion is a crime and absolute evil that cannot be justified. He also spoke on the topic of avoiding pregnancy. So this was Paul the, let's see. What is that? The 5th, 6th, something like that. But yeah, so that Pope obviously was not with it. But I think recently Pope Francis said some shit like, what the fuck did he say? I don't know why I can't find it right now. I literally had the link. Let's see. I'm going to try one more time, but shout out to Faith Over Fear in OC. She says, thanks for doing a deep dive into this. Accountability and shame are like kryptonite to these murdering Jezebel spirits. She's straight. Hey, shout out to Faith Over Fear.
Oh, say less.
Yes, sir. So let's see. Okay, so that was that Pope. They keep mentioning Pope Paul shit. Anyways, that's not relevant. We don't have to go into that. But Now I believe that the Pope has changed his tune. Pope Francis, at least. All right, so where were we? Okay, so yeah, we just read that part. All right, Margaret Sanger sought to control the population, especially in low-income immigrant and African-American communities. She wrote A License for Mothers to Have Babies with the subtitle, A Code to Stop the Overproduction of Children. In this publication, she asserted that parenthood was not a right, but a privilege that only the state could give. She championed the 1939 initiative, the Negro Project, which sought to get rid of too many births among African Americans. Okay, so how is that, guys? We just debunked it that the Negro, she didn't really come up with that. Yes, the fuck she did. All right. She declared the mass of Negroes, particularly in the South, still breed carelessly and disastrously, with the result that the increase among Negroes, even more than among whites, is from the portion of the population least intelligent and fit and least able to rear children properly. Okay, so she basically said that niggas was too stupid to continue breeding. Which, you know, a lot of these sisters are breeding these super gremlins. So let me see if I can find that article or that speech that she wrote. Let's see. A license for mothers to have babies. God damn. She was different. She was different. Okay. So I wish, let me see. Can we find this PDF? I just want to see how long it is. All right. All right, guys. I'm gonna try this one more site. See if I can find this. So we got the articles and speeches index, but it's not gonna tell you, or it's not gonna give you a link to it. Okay, guys. So we do have a couple of her speeches, so we're not gonna trip over that. So we're almost done with this article. Got 2 more paragraphs. So Sanger visited the totalitarian countries of Nazi Germany and Communist Soviet Union in the 1930s. Her main reason was to investigate how these 2 totalitarian governments handled women's rights, eugenics, and human reproductive matters. While not a Nazi, Sanger shared the stage with her Nazi eugenicists and did not denounce them. Sanger did not approve of Hitler's barbarism, but she also did not change her views on forced sterilization of the unfit or legalizing abortion. After visiting the Soviet Union in 1935, she wrote for the Birth Control Review, "Russia today is the country of the liberated woman." Wow. The attitude of the Soviet toward its women would delight the hearts of the staunchest feminists. So prostitution? What are these things talking about? She liked the Soviets, gave out free contraceptive devices to women, but she disliked the Soviets' use of abortion as a means of mass population control. She didn't object to legalizing abortion, but thought that Russians used abortion too frequently and women needed more access to contraceptives. So I bet she would have. I bet if this was an African country, she would have she would have thought differently about them using abortion too frequently. Margaret Sanger died in 1966. Her work changed American society and perhaps the world. For progressive who think the government and certain fit women should decide who live and who has the right to procreate, she is their hero. When Sanger was born in 1879, birth control and abortion were illegal throughout the United States of America, and both were viewed as sinful by the great majority of Americans who were Christian. She worked to make every means of birth control and eugenics a reality in America. At her death, birth control was legal in most states, and 7 years after her death, abortion became legal as well. The organization that she founded, Planned Parenthood, became the nation's largest provider of abortion and today promotes abortion and sterilization around the world. In 2020, Planned Parenthood accounted for 345,672 abortions and 2.6 million contraceptive services in the United States. Annually, there are over 1 million abortions in America, averaging 3,000 a day. Sanger's views on population control, eugenics, and birth control and abortion have had a major influence in the country and in the world. So, guys, that was extremely interesting. Okay? So, Margaret Sanger, she was definitely a savage. And she passed away in 1966 to return.
She belongs to the street. Percocets, Miley Percocets, Percocets, Miley Percocets.
She returned to the streets, my friend. She returned to the streets, okay? Oh, God. So anyways, we are going to read A Plan for Peace by Margaret Sanger. All right, so let's see. Let's just make sure. All right, we got the whole pamphlet. And this is the following A Plan for Peace by Margaret Sanger was published in Birth Control Review, April 1932, page 107 to 108. So let's read this. Let's get my sexy poetic voice to read it, okay? First, put into action President Wilson's 14 points, upon which terms Germany and Austria surrendered to the Allies in 1918. Second, have Congress set up a special department for the study of population problems and appoint a parliament of population, the directors representing the various branches of science. This body to direct and control the population through birth rates and immigration, and to direct its distribution over the country according to national needs, consistent with tastes, fitness, and interests of individuals. The main objectives of the Population Congress would be A, to raise the level and increase the general intelligence of population. B, to increase the population slowly by keeping the birth rate at its present level of 15 per thousand, decreasing the death rate below its present mark of 11 per thousand. C, to keep the doors of immigration closed to the entrance of certain aliens whose condition is known to be detrimental to the stamina of the race, such as feeble-minded idiots, morons, insane, syphilitic, epileptic, criminal, professional, prostitutes, and others in the class barred by the immigration laws of 1924. D, to apply a stern and rigid policy of sterilization and segregation to the grade of population whose progeny is tainted or whose inheritance is such that objectionable traits may be transmitted to offspring. E, to ensure the country against future burdens of maintenance for numerous offsprings as may be born to feeble-minded parents by pensioning all persons with transmissible disease who voluntarily consent to sterilization. F, to give certain dysgenic groups in our population their choice of segregation or sterilization. G, to apportion farmlands and homesteads for these segregated persons where they would be taught to work under competent instructors for the period of their entire lives. Goddamn, so slavery all over again. The first step would thus be to control the intake and output of morons, mental defectives, and epileptics. A second step would be to take an inventory of the secondary group, such as illiterates, paupers, unemployables, criminals, prostitutes, dope fiends, classify them in special departments under government medical protection, and segregate them on farms and open spaces as long as necessary for the strengthening and development of moral conduct. Sounds like concentration camps. She went over to Nazi Germany and said, bow. You know what I mean? I like that. All right. So having corralled this enormous part of our population and placed it on a basis of health instead of punishment, it is safe to say that 15 or 20 million of our population would then be organized into soldiers of defense, defending the unborn against their own disabilities. The third step would be to give special attention. So she basically wanted to conscript defective people and, you know, have them serve in some type of military position. The third step would be to give special attention to the mother's health, to see that women who are suffering from tuberculosis, heart or kidney disease, toxic goitre, gonorrhea, or any disease where the condition of pregnancy disturbs their health are placed under public health nurses to instruct them in practical scientific methods of contraception in order to safeguard their lives, thus reducing maternal mortality. The above steps may seem to place emphasis on a health program instead of on tariffs, moratoriums, and debts, but I believe the national health is the first essential factor in any program for universal peace. With the future citizens safeguarded from hereditary taints, with 5 million mental and moral degenerates segregated, with 10 million women and 10 million children receiving adequate care, we could then turn our attention to the basic needs for international peace. There would be a definite effort to make population increase slowly and at a specified rate in order to accommodate and adjust increasing numbers to the best social and economic system. In the meantime, we should organize and join an international league of low birth rate nations to secure and maintain world peace. Okay? So there you have it. Let's see. This has been a very informative episode, actually. You know, it's been a very informative episode. We do have some of the we got Planned Parenthood and the CDC doing damage control. We got, let's see, we got like 13 pages of that. So I will read this other speech from Margaret Sanger, and then we'll see how much of that we can get into. Before eugenicists and others who are laboring for racial betterment can succeed, they must first clear the way for birth control. Like the advocates of birth control, the eugenicists, for instance, are seeking to assist the race toward the elimination of the unfit. Both are seeking a single end, but they lay emphasis upon different methods, okay? Eugenicists emphasize the mating of healthy couples for the conscious purpose of producing healthy children, the sterilization of the unfit to prevent their populating the world with their kind, and they may perhaps agree with us that contraception is a necessary measure among the masses of the workers where wages do not keep pace with the growth of the family and its necessities in the way of food, clothing, housing, medical attention, education, and the like. We who advocate birth control, on the other hand, lay all our emphasis upon stopping not only the reproduction of the unfit, but upon stopping all reproduction when there is not economic means of providing proper care for those who are born in health. The eugenicist also believes that a woman should bear as many healthy children as possible as a duty to the state. We hold that the world is already overpopulated. Eugenicists imply or insist that a woman's first duty is to the state. We contend that her duty to herself is her duty to the state. Okay, so there goes that selfishness that we see in these modern women, translating from back in time. Okay, we maintain that a woman possessing inadequate, and I don't disagree that, you know, her duty shouldn't be to the state, but it should be to the betterment of her family and of her offspring, not necessarily just herself. Okay, we maintain that a woman possessing inadequate knowledge of her reproductive functions is the best judge of the time and conditions under which her child should be brought into the world. We further maintain that it is her right, regardless of all considerations, to determine whether she shall bear children or not, and how many children she shall bear if she chooses to become a mother. To this end, we insist that information in regard to scientific contraceptives be made open to all. We believe that if such information is placed within the reach of all, we will have made it possible to take the first greatest step toward racial betterment and that this step assisted in no small measure by the educational propaganda of eugenicists and members of similar schools will be taken. While I personally believe in the sterilization of the feeble-minded, the insane, the syphilitic, I have not been able to discover that these measures are more than superficial deterrents when applied to the constantly growing stream of the unfit. They are excellent means of meeting a certain phase of the situation, but I believe in regard to these, as in regard to other eugenics means, that they do not go to the bottom of the matter. Neither the mating of healthy couples nor the sterilization of certain recognized types of the unfit touches the great problem of unlimited reproduction of those who housing, clothing, and food are all inadequate and physical and mental health. These measures do not touch those great masses who through economic pressure populate the slums and there produce in their helplessness other helpless, diseased, and incompetent masses who overwhelm all the eugenics can do among those whose economic condition is better. Birth control, on the other hand, not only opens the way to the eugenist, but it preserves his work. Furthermore, it not only prepares the ground in a natural fashion for the development of a higher standard of motherhood and a family life, but enables the child to be better born, better cared for in infancy, and better educated. Birth control of itself, by freeing the reproductive instincts from its present chains, will make a better race. What does she mean by a better race? A family subsisting upon a certain wage will naturally give better care to 1 or 2 children upon the wage than it would do 4 or 6 or 8 or 10, and the 2 children are much less likely to have to go into child labor factories and sweatshops than are the 8 or 10. The situation is too plain for argument. Concrete examples of the eugenics effects of birth control are the most convincing evidence. In Holland, where birth control is taught in clinics conducted by nurses specially trained for that purpose, military statistics show that the average stature of men has increased 4 inches in 30 years. 90% of the men were fit for army services, while in the United States, less than 50% were. The fighting qualities of the French poilu, his endurance and his fitness have been the amazement of military authorities in the Great War. The present generation of Frenchmen, as everyone knows, who remembers the horror with which anti-race suicidists greeted the French tendency to birth control, is a product largely of birth control methods. Eugenics without birth control seems to us a house builded upon the sands. So she says, wow, that is an epic statement that I don't think many people highlight. She says eugenics without birth control seems to be a house built upon the sands, and you can pretty much say vice versa. Birth control without eugenics seems to us to be a house built upon the sand. So that is a very impactful statement that she just made. It is the mercy of the rising stream of the unfit. It cannot stand against the furious winds of economic pressure, which have buffeted into partial or total helplessness a tremendous proportion of the human race. Only upon a free, self-determining motherhood can rest any unshakable structure of racial betterment. Let me read that again. Only upon a free, self-determining motherhood can rest any unshakable structure of racial betterment. So what do you guys think she means by racial betterment? Okay. As a matter of fact, they have the CDC and Planned Parenthood are trying to debunk people from saying that she was a eugenicist, racist, and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm not even going to get into that right now because it's long as hell, honestly, and I've read enough. We've been at it for 3 hours and 30 minutes. We pretty much see what the fuck type of time she was on. So, guys, like I said, I appreciate everybody for coming up in here. I appreciate everybody for coming up in here, man. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe on the video. Make sure you continue the discussion in the comment section below, guys. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Like I said, I appreciate everybody who tuned into this, and I hope that we come with a better understanding of who Margaret Sanger was and what she was all about and what the Planned Parenthood organization is all about. Okay, so without further ado, guys, we are going to go ahead and close it out, and I will have Jenquavius go ahead and close us out. But we do want to hear from Dr. Umar before we dip out to remind you guys not to impregnate these chicks, okay? Because they are, most likely going to terminate the pregnancy with your kid, especially if you impregnating these sisters, man. Just make sure that you know for a fact when you are laying down with a woman that, hey, I'm going to either severely protect myself from having this kid, or this is the woman that I really want to have children with. So without further ado, we're going to give it to Umar and then Jenquavius to take it away.
I keep telling you, consciousness over coochie, politics over punani.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Medgar Evers, and it's a very tranquil scene compared to just a couple hours ago
where drive-by shooting just took place. Excuse me. I'm getting live updates as we speak. I've just been updated to the amount of casualties from this drive-by shooting, and I'm getting reports that 2 people were actually declared deceased and 27 others were shot and injured but are in stable condition. And although we must pray for the families of the fallen, we must also praise God for the aim of the super gremlin. If you want to know more about the victims of this crime, make sure you add BGZM News 17 on Patreon at www.patreon.com/blackgenzmindset. Also, don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment on the video to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this gun violence in the streets. For more hard-hitting news coverage from the community, by the community, I'm Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
And cut.
All right, dog. Let's get the out of here before these niggas come back.
Whoa. Yo. Ain't that nigga J?
Nah, that ain't me. That ain't me.
He just went live.
That ain't me.
Funky ass that's that nigga.
That's not me.
Hey, get that nigga.
Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia. Pray for me.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.